You can tell this audience is predominantly students, as they were very, very obedient and immediately silencing the moment the lights came up. Well, thank you so much. Welcome to City Hall, everybody. We have a packed house. We will try to get you out of here as quickly as possible with some of the ceremonial activities here at the beginning. But before we commence the meeting officially, I want to begin with our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance. And so I would ask you first to please stand. Our invocation will be led by the Right Reverend Polson C. Reed, Bishop of the Episcopal Diocese of Oklahoma, and then that will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Katura Vicia of Girl Scout Troop 269. Bishop, you're up.
Let us pray. Almighty God, our heavenly and loving Father, send down upon those who hold office in this city the spirit of wisdom, justice, and compassion, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the dignity, freedom, safety, and well-being of all people. We ask this in God's most holy name. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bishop. Thank you, Ms. Vicia. All right, I call this meeting of the City Council to order, and we do have a couple of recognitions here under Office of the Mayor. For the first, I will come down to the front. All right, so most people who follow city council meetings know that we honor a teacher of the month every month here at City Hall. And today we want to give a little bit of context to that. And so before we honor that teacher, I'd like to welcome Jared Schaus up here. Jared is the current president of Rotary 29, Downtown 29, one of the oldest and largest Rotary clubs in the world. And he just ascended to the presidency of that a couple months ago. And he's going to tell us just a little bit about what we do here every month and how Rotary relates to it. Jared Schaus.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, City Council, for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Jared Schaus, and I'm currently the president of the Rotary Club of Oklahoma City. As the mayor alluded to, we're Oklahoma's oldest and largest civic organization. And I just want to say how much we appreciate the opportunity to be a partner with the City of Oklahoma City and with the Foundation for Oklahoma City Public Schools to every month honor and recognize the Teacher of the Month for Oklahoma City. After the teacher is recognized here in council chambers, we then invite them to our Rotary Club luncheon, where we honor them again and we thank them and recognize them in front of all of our members that are in attendance. It's a wonderful thing. Our members love doing it. We've been doing that since 2010, and I hope we get to do it forever. It's that much fun. I am of the belief that teaching is the most noblest of professions, and we can't do enough to thank our teachers for everything they do for our kids and our families and our communities. So, but this is a pretty good start. So again, Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to be here for the Rotary Club of Oklahoma City to be your partner in honoring and recognizing the Teacher of the Month.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Well said, Jared. And now I'd like to welcome Mackenzie Hodge up here, who is our Teacher of the Month. And we'd like to learn a little bit more about you, Mackenzie. And so I'd ask the clerk to read this resolution.
Whereas Mackenzie Hodge is the 2021 Oklahoma City Public School Teacher of the Year and is recognized as Teacher of the Month for August 2021 by the Foundation for Oklahoma City Public Schools and Rotary Club of Oklahoma City. And whereas Mackenzie has been a teacher in Oklahoma City Public Schools for 6 years and teaches 5th grade science at Wheeler Elementary. And whereas Mackenzie received a degree in education from the University of Central Oklahoma. And whereas Mackenzie's philosophy of teaching is centered around the idea of no matter what you're teaching, make it to the dinner table. She strives to teach, engage, and encourage students in a way that lessons can arouse an excitement that inspires students to take the learning beyond the four walls of the classroom. And whereas Mackenzie believes it is crucial for teachers to set examples for students by continuing to learn and improve. She has attended professional development on the district and national level, including Get Your Teach On, a national conference challenging educators to think next level with new ways to reach the 21st century learner. And whereas Mackenzie is active in her church and volunteers in the community as well as her school. She has served as a course marshal for the past 4 years with the Oklahoma City Memorial Marathon, cheer coach for her school, sponsor for the Fellowship for Christian Athletes, and attends Students' Weekend sports events. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the City of Oklahoma City that they do hereby recognize and commend Mackenzie Hodge on her selection as August 2021 Teacher of the Month by the Foundation for Oklahoma City Public Schools and Rotary Club of Oklahoma City.
Thank you. Well, wow, you are doing a lot, and I love that make it to the dinner table. So you're saying when I asked my kids what they did at school today and they say nothing, that you have failed on that. Right, no, I think that's a worthy goal. That's outstanding. So this is a resolution, so we want to make sure and pass it, so I don't want to forget that. So why don't we go ahead and take a motion in a second on that. And cast your votes, and I would like to vote aye. First one always takes a little while. It's kind of clearing our throat a little bit. We're getting started. All right, passes unanimously. Yes, yeah, I know. Yeah, yes, let's hear it. Well, Ms. Hodge, we would love to hear a few words, and maybe whatever you say this morning might make it to our dinner table tonight if you really knock it out of the park. So here you go.
Thank you. Well, hello, everyone, and thank you, council members, and thank you, Mayor, and the Foundation and Rotary for even giving me this opportunity and allowing me to be here. I am extremely blessed and honored to have the profession that I do. I get to do my job every day, and I get to mold and shape the young minds, and so I'm very thankful for that. For everyone here, I would just encourage you to go love a teacher and support them. After this last year and couple of years, we've had some wild things thrown our way, as you guys know, but just continue to love them and serve them because we are here for the future of our city. We get to plant seeds in education. We get to see them taken into their community and hopefully change not only their communities, but their families as well. And to the young students that are here, congratulations. You guys are doing so well for yourselves. Continue to move on, continue to shape your future and take those opportunities that come for you. So thank you all, everyone, for being here, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Mackenzie. Let's hear it from Mackenzie Hodge. All right, thank you. All right, now we are going to proceed to the Youth Council presentation. So each year, of course, we have a wonderful program here at the City of Oklahoma City known as the Youth Council. It has been running for some time. And unfortunately, we weren't able to do this in-person gathering a year ago, so I'm excited that we get to do it again this year and that everybody is back and that we have a new class of young, ambitious, future civic leaders ready to introduce to you. And so to do that, we typically go around the horseshoe and let each council member introduce their youth counselors. And so why don't we start? Ward 1.
Thank you. Would Adriana Velez Hernandez stand, please? I'd like to introduce Adriana Velez Hernandez as a senior at U.S. Grant High School. She has participated in 2 programs of the Oklahoma City Police Department, Family and Community Togetherness, and Youth Leadership Academy. She also plays softball and is a member of the National Honor Society. She holds the title as Miss Teen Fiesta de las Americas. A strength of Adriana is her ability and passion to share her family's rich Puerto Rican heritage with others. She is proud of her family's culture and is excited to continue her work with homelessness and food insecurity in the community. We welcome you, Adriana. Thank you. Also for Ward 1, I'd like to introduce Allison Dunn. Ms. Dunn is a senior at Yukon High School. She is a member of the Student Council and National Honor Society. She has also served as junior class president, where she helped plan prom and volunteered at the 2021 graduation events. She works with the Yukon High School administration to create more school spirit on the Spirit Committee and recently helped make plans for Mental Health Week. Allison thinks creating more mental health awareness and resources would be beneficial to the youth in Oklahoma City. Her teacher said, Allison is self-motivated and committed to working as hard or as much as she needs in order to achieve her goals. She's excited to join Youth Council, having seen the positive impact it has had on others. Thank you, Allison.
Ward 2.
Hello. Would you excuse me for one moment? I need to ask Debbie Martin a question.
All right, we will all let you do that. Oh, you're literally going to go over there and go ask her?
Come with me, everybody. We're going to go on hold.
Thank you, and that continues my long reign as one of the most awkward human beings in Oklahoma City. Appreciate you all being here for that. I'd like to introduce two young students I had the honor of meeting this morning. First, Anna Bovers is going to be representing Ward 2's Youth Council. Let me tell you about Anna. Anna is a senior at Harding Charter Preparatory High School. She participates in student council, tennis, and piano. She is also an altar server at her church. Anna has maintained a 4.0 throughout her high school career and participates in the Oklahoma Music Teachers Association's piano competition yearly. Anna is an active member on the tennis and softball team, and last summer she was an intern with Unity Above Self in America, which is a nonprofit advocating for the passage of the No Budget, No Play Act. And that's Anna. Thank you, and welcome to Ward 2. Serving alongside Anna will be Declan Jones. Declan. Declan is a junior at Cassidy School. He is active in student council, the environmental club, and men's soccer. In fact, just last year, Declan also created a documentary for National History Day where his topic was the Tulsa Race Massacre. Moreover, Declan enjoys speech and debate. During this historic pandemic, Declan made masks and volunteered at the food bank to distribute food to those in need. He believes food deserts are a big problem facing the youth in Oklahoma City. And in addition to his academics and volunteer work, Declan produces videos for educational purposes as well for fun. He considers creativity to be one of his main strengths and loves to make people laugh. He has a passion for hiking and has even hiked the West Coast Trail in Canada. Alongside Anna, welcome to Ward 2. Honored to serve with you both.
And Councilwoman Young regrets that she couldn't join us this morning, but Councilman Carter is going to introduce Ward 3 as well.
Yes. So I get the honor of introducing Millie Martinez. Millie Martinez is a senior at Mustang High School. She is very active in Key Club. She is a junior representative with varied responsibilities. One responsibility she enjoys is taking care of the food pantry, and that she keeps up to feed anyone who is in need. She also writes articles about the Key Club for the newspaper. She has remained on the honor roll and received the English Award her freshman year. Outside of school, Millie is employed at the Regional Food Bank of Oklahoma. She works with the volunteers and on occasion is a translator when needed. For fun, she likes to read and run. One issue of concern Millie sees facing the youth in her community is hunger. She would like to get the message out that there is food available for people who need it. Millie, thank you very much. Also serving alongside Millie in Ward 3 will be Orlando Ray. Orlando Ray is a senior at Cristo Rey Catholic High School. He is the vice president of the student council. He has also volunteered for OMRF, Adopt a School, and has been a peer tutor for the other students. Orlando is a member of the soccer team. He received the Student of the Year award among other awards for excellence in academics. Outside of school, Orlando works as a Chick-fil-A member. I knew I recognized you. One issue that Orlando sees facing the youth in his community is a lack of motivation for online learning. But for fun, Orlando likes to watch movies and play sports. Orlando, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. Is Lillian Daniels here? I don't believe she was able to make it this morning. Okay, so I will go ahead and introduce her anyway. Lillian Daniels is a senior at Santa Fe South High School. She loves sports and participates in softball, basketball, and volleyball. She was the first girl in her school to play on the baseball team. She plays competitive softball and travels to tournaments on a regular basis. She likes to volunteer in the community, cleaning up after storms and working at animal shelters. For fun, Lillian likes poetry and photography. She especially likes to make new friends. Some concerns Lillian sees facing the youth in her community are teen pregnancy, drug addiction, and homelessness. She would like to see more awareness in schools about these topics. Also representing Ward 4 is Daniel Zavala. Daniel Zavala is a senior at Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School. He's a member of the National Honor Society, BMCHS Speech and Debate Team, National Spanish Honor Society, School Ambassador, and member of the French Club. Throughout his time at McGinnis, Daniels participated in the Work Grant Program. He works at school in exchange for reduced tuition. He hopes to receive the Red Cord of Service hours by the end of his senior year for volunteering 300 hours above what is required. For fun, Daniels taught himself how to play the guitar, and he loves stargazing. A top issue that Daniel sees facing the youth in his community is homelessness and healthcare inequality. He would like to see more outreach programs. Congratulations, Daniel.
Ward 5.
Thank you, Mayor. I have the pleasure of introducing two outstanding students this morning. First one is Karisha Patel. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Patel is a junior at Westmore High School. She enjoys tutoring young students in science and math through the MPS program. She is also very active in the wind ensemble and varsity tennis. Ms. Patel has volunteered with the Oklahoma Food Bank through the National Honor Society. She serves as Vice President for Young Women in Leadership. One of the problems Ms. Patel sees facing the youth in her community is academic peer pressure and stress-induced time management. She would like to see the community encourage students to know their limits and promote reasonable, productive goals. Ms. Patel, thank you for joining us. The next student is Yesley Ortega. Good morning. Ms. Ortega is a junior at Southeast High School. She serves as president for Business Professionals of America. Other activities she's involved with include Upward Bound, Key Club, iDance Studio, and Litter Blitz. Litter Blitz is a group that volunteers to pick up trash in South Oklahoma City. For enjoyment, Ms. Ortega enjoys dancing. She participates on a competitive dance team and also coaches young dancers. Ms. Ortega feels strongly about the lack of employment for young women, lack of empowerment for young women She would like to work with local women in leadership positions to address this issue through campaigns and events. Thank you for joining us, Ms. Ortega.
Ward 6.
Yes, thank you. Was Leslie able to make it? Okay, well, Leslie Zermano is not here, was not able to join us this morning, but I will introduce her. Leslie Zermano is a senior at Dove Science Academy. She is very active in the National Honor Society, Science Olympiad, and Play Smart Academy. She attended the Regional Science Fair at UCO, where she won 3rd place. When Leslie has extra time after schoolwork and her part-time job, she likes to spend it with her family. One issue that concerns Leslie about the youth in OKC is violence and crime. She would like to see programs where cross-generations could work together to lessen crime and violence in our community. We'll welcome Leslie to Youth Council. And then we have Lindsay Best. Lindsay Best is a senior at Bishop McGuinness Catholic High School. She is active in National Honor Society, Yoga Club, and the McGuinness Engineering and Science Society. One of Lindsay's community service projects is Cleats for Kids. She has served on their teen board for 3 years. She is also involved with the OKC Arts Festival. Lindsay was an American Heart Association sweetheart and was selected to serve on the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation's Teen Leaders. For fun, Lindsay likes to play tennis and read. Welcome, Lindsay, to Youth Council.
Ward 7.
Thank you. Before I introduce our Black Girl Magic that's going to be representing Ward 7, I want their family to stand, their support system. If you're here representing and supporting our young ladies from Ward 7, please stand. We want you to be recognized. Thank you. And the reason I asked them to stand is because clearly it takes a village for us to support our young people. So I want to introduce to you first Michaela Hammonds, and she's a senior at Cristo Rey OKC Catholic High School. She's an active member in her faith, dance, and athletics, and she serves on the student editorial board where she submits stories to the local newspaper. Michaela has had perfect attendance throughout high school and continues to be on the honor roll. Students at Cristo Rey are required to work, and Michaela has worked at St. Anthony Hospital, Children's Center Rehabilitation Hospital, and Crow and Dunleavy Attorneys at Law. Michaela is concerned about children coming out of the foster care system successfully. Volunteering is a favorite pastime for Michaela. Welcome, Michaela. And we have Miss Ruthie Presswood, and she's a senior at Cassidy School. Ruthie is part of the Equity Committee. They need to meet to discuss equity issues and concerns within her school. She is also involved with the Neighborhood Alliance to better her community with food gardens and murals. She is a Malone Scholar, which is a rare scholarship that Cassidy awards to individuals who excel in community work, academics, and achievements. She believes child hunger is a very serious issue facing the youth of Oklahoma City. For fun, Ruthie likes to try new restaurants and spend time with friends and family. Welcome, Ruthie.
Ward 8.
This is, Mayor, one of my favorite events every year, and I'm sure glad everybody's here today, but I'd like to give a special thanks to Debbie Martin, who makes sure this is pulled off every year, and this has been a difficult year, but let's give her a big hand. Had a chance last week to talk to my 2 youth council, and I think AJ Sakar is not here today, is that right? I'd still like to introduce him, really a engaging young person. AJ is a junior at Deer Creek High School. He participates in HOSA, a quiz bowl competition, Club Med, an organization that learns about professionals in the medical community and youth government. AJ has received numerous awards in the state spelling bee, Odyssey of the Minds competition, National Science Bowls, and the first Lego League. He is on the YMCA Leadership Teen Council, and he is on the Northwest Library Teen Council, where he works there in the summer program. His favorite hobby is playing percussion instruments. You know, Todd, I was thinking, you have Daniel, the guitarist, and I have a percussionist. Maybe we could get them together. Yeah, youth council band. A major concern AJ has is our youth losing the school lunch programs due to the pandemic and not getting enough nutrition. Let's give, even though he's not here, let's give AJ a big hand. And then Debbie, is Campbell Christensen here? And I got a chance to talk to Campbell last week. Would you please stand? And if your folks are here, would you ask them to stand? And let's recognize our folks. Campbell is a senior at Edmond Memorial High School. She is a lead member of the tennis team and is on 2 teen boards. Number 1 is Citizens Caring for Children, and number 2 is Martin Nature Park, which we had a long discussion about. One of my favorite parks in Ward 8, the largest attended park in Oklahoma City. She is also, during the pandemic, she started a community service group called Progressive Youth OK. The group consisted of over 40 people who organized a canned food drive and wrote letters to citizens in nursing homes who could not visit friends or family. Besides tennis, Campbell is active in her church and loves to write poetry. Campbell is concerned about suicide rates for homeless LGBTQ teens. She would like to see more community resources and available therapy for our community's growing population. Everybody give Campbell a big hand.
And finally, last but not least, I'd like to introduce my 2 at-large representatives. We are joined this morning by Aishwarya Swami Durai. Is that okay? Did I like 9 out of 10 maybe? Aishwarya is a senior at Classen School of Advanced Studies. She plays soccer, represents her peers on the student council, and is a founding officer of the Girl Up Club. I like that. She has advocated for the YMCA of the USA for the past 2 years, attends National Advocacy Days on behalf of Oklahoma, is one of 2 youth advocates from the state, volunteers with Injin, tutoring Ukrainian students in English. For fun, she reads, plays the piano, dabbles in photography, and Councilwoman Nice will appreciate this. She believes food insecurity is a top issue for the youth of Oklahoma City. Her solution is to tackle the food deserts of Oklahoma City through the implementation of more community food hubs, such as community gardens, restaurant leftovers programs, and others. Please welcome Aishwarya. And Emmanuel Brown is a senior at Harding Charter Preparatory High School. He is the Black Student Union Vice President and serves on the Student Council. He is also the team manager for boys basketball. He wants to see the community come together to improve education and help students see that they have a bright future. Emmanuel loves learning about government and how it works. You're certainly going to get your fill of it in the next year. And because he wants to become involved in issues in which he is passionate. His teacher describes him as a hard worker who takes the time to consider his words before he speaks. We could all use that. He maintains a high GPA while working part-time and volunteering for many different organizations. Please welcome Emmanuel. All right, so this is actually an appointment, and so we do need to approve it, and so I would accept a motion and a second virtually to appoint these youth counselors. We've got the motion and second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. You are officially youth counselors. I add my gratitude, as previously expressed, to Debbie and everybody who works on this program. And at this moment, do we want to give them a moment to transition out? Or? Okay. Okay.
I would like to also introduce Matt Cagigal, who is one of our program co-chairs, and his partner in that is LaShawn Thompson, who happens to be on vacation. Our incoming chairs are Chief Richard Kelly and Gloria Torres. So I'm really grateful for their leadership and their support of this program. Thank you so much.
Well, let's thank them as well for all that. Okay, well, with that, we are going to move on past Office of the Mayor and on to item 4, items from council. Item 4A is the public hearing regarding ordinance relating to the zoning and planning code. This relates, as you may recall from our last meeting, to quail, doves, peafowl, and ostriches. Pretty interesting, unique issue that was explained by Councilwoman Nice and staff at the last meeting. Today is just the public hearing. Has anyone signed up to speak on this public hearing?
No, they haven't.
Okay. Hearing none, we can move on to item 4B. This is a resolution approving travel expenses for Councilwoman Nice to attend the ULI Oklahoma Denver Pier City trip in Denver, Colorado in late October. Is there a motion and a second on this item? We've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously and with the 6 required affirmative votes. 4C is a resolution strongly encouraging residents to follow CDC guidance, including wearing a mask in public indoor areas, and reminding residents that businesses and organizations may require more stringent mask rules for their spaces. Councilman Cooper, would you like to present your resolution?
Yes, I think I'm ready. Thank you, Mayor. So, I wanted to put forth this resolution today for several reasons. One is this on? Okay. One is as a former middle school teacher who's fully aware that our students are returning to the classroom right now. Fully aware of that. And moreover, since we're talking about a K through 12 system, this of course means that we're talking about our city's children who are under the age of 12, who at present cannot receive a vaccination. So I'm here not just to pass a resolution, but to implore every eligible person who calls this city home to do a few things. And this resolution calls for a very important one. One, it is in front of us right now as adults and people over the age of 12 to step up, meet this moment, protect our babies' lives. I cannot put it any more simpler than that. And we can do that by wearing a cloth mask. We can do that. 2, we can continue to wash our hands. 3, we can physically distance. And 4, this means even those of us who've already received the vaccination need to reconsider how to meet this moment. Look, there have been times I have walked out of my apartment in the last 2 weeks without a mask. And I'll walk to the coffee shop where I live in the Paseo, and I'll get about halfway there before I remember, and I'm sure my boyfriend's getting a little annoyed at me by now, that I forgot my mask. And we turn right back around, and we walk back, and we get the mask, and then we go. Because we're not just here to protect those kids, but we're here to protect our workers and our economic vitality. Without our people, there is no economy. I've never understood any other formulation of what we are doing here in the city. So, unfortunately, you all are hearing what I'm hearing. Our hospitalization numbers are up. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's not something that a YouTube channel is going to persuade any reasonable person otherwise. Stay with me. If our hospital numbers are up, who's filling the hospitals right now? That would be the double digits positivity rate we are experiencing around this state. Double digits. And thankfully in our county, those numbers, those hospitals, those positivity rates are lower. But remember what happened last summer when our Oklahoma neighbors in the rural parts of the state found themselves without mask ordinances in their counties, and we saw those positivity ratings go up? Where did they go? Oklahoma City hospitals, which led to an increased pressure on our nursing staff. And remember, we already have a nursing shortage, something I am very familiar with as a teacher, and teacher shortages. This puts pressure on our hospitals too. And the more pressure we put on this system, the more the system cannot bear. And we will end up in a similar situation where, if you all recall earlier this year, IMSA was having to make some pretty painful choices as the lines got longer in terms of when people could receive care in hospitals, people who weren't even there for COVID. We have an opportunity to meet this moment by doing something as simple as wearing a mask in our indoor public spaces for our kids, our hospitals, those who are on the front lines serving in healthcare, for our economy, for our city. And with this, we must also all vaccinate. This is so important. But until our under 12 population can receive those vaccinations, this is how we can help meet this moment. I don't know if Amanda Carpenter, who helped draft this, would like to say anything about the particulars of this, like what this is and what this isn't. Might be a helpful thing to say. Put you on the spot, thank you.
No problem. Amanda Carpenter, Deputy Municipal Counselor. This this resolution provides support for the wearing of masks in public indoor spaces, and also makes sure that it's recognized to residents of Oklahoma City that businesses can make their own decisions as to how they regulate their indoor spaces, and residents are encouraged to not only support those decisions, but respect those decisions. And that is everything.
Thank you, Amanda. The only other things I will note are that many Ward 2 businesses are already doing this and want us to even go further. And then I can't help but notice on my youth council bio this morning, one of our students didn't just sit around during this pandemic, but helped make masks. So I feel like Ward 2, this is something we do. We advocate for the public health of our people. I don't know if anyone on council has anything they would like to add, but that's where I would conclude my remarks.
Okay. Now, I know that Councilman Stonecipher has an amendment, as you know, that he'd like to propose.
Yeah, and the one thing I'd like to say to James is I didn't get to read this till last night, and I would have liked to talk to you some more about it in advance, but there are a couple of points that, principally two, I'd like to amend just for clarification purposes. And it begins with the "now therefore be it resolved" paragraph. Instead of using the terms CDC guidance, I'd like it to be broader than that and change CDC guidance to follow safety precautions. And instead of just limiting it to wearing a mask, I'd like it to say, which includes social distancing, washing your hands, and wearing a mask. That's the First Amendment. The Second Amendment would be to add a "be it further resolved" paragraph, and that "be it further resolved" paragraph would say, "Be it resolved that this resolution is not a mask mandate, and we respect those individuals who choose not to wear a mask for religious, medical, or personal reasons." So those are the two amendments that I talked to the mayor about and James about, and I hope I can make a motion at the appropriate time to amend the resolution to state that. Thank you.
Okay. Well, no more appropriate time than the president, I suppose. Councilman Cooper, do you wish to comment on that?
You want me to make the motion and then you can comment?
Well, I mean, there's a few comments on that. One, just so everyone's clear, and to you as well, Councilman, I would hate for anyone to think differently. Like, please know, like, the reason why you read this last night, right, is because the agenda comes out on Friday. I wasn't even sure I could do this. Like, the city of Stillwater just in the last few days passed a similar resolution. So this was kind of rapid fire, just like the virus is spreading.
It's just like Tulsa last night. Looked at the mask mandate in a special meeting. I agree. And
so I
it's
just
moving
wanted
at
to
a fast pace.
Sorry, go ahead.
I apologize.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to clarify that this is not a rush to judgment. This was literally me trying to respond to reality such as it is in the most moderately responsible way I could. So that's just one thing I wanted to say there. No offense intended. So that's one thing. Second thing, I'm okay with the amendment as the safety precaution instead of CDC. I will say this, however, in making that revision, I understand some folk in our community, because the CDC has responded to, again, reality as it happens, so some guidance changes from here to there, and I understand that for some folk that has led to a bit of confusion about what guidance we take what we don't. I even include myself in that, going back to May when I believe they ended the requirement for vaccinated people to wear a mask. I don't think they should have made that, because now here we are, right? So, but rather than get into a tit for tat over language, the most important thing is the safety precautions for now.
Sure.
I just want everyone, for the public record, to know where I'm receiving those public safety is from both Oklahoma City County health officials and from CDC. And then the next thing I would say.
And can I
Yes,
just
please.
mention one thing there? I'm sorry.
Yes.
The only reason I wanted to expand it, not limit it to just the CDC guidelines, is some people believe that the CDC has been a little less than a model of clarity. And I realize they're dealing with a very difficult situation at very difficult times. But one article I kept from the AP was the CDC's release that says, "Great day for America, vaccinated can now largely ditch mask." And I realize times are changing, but I don't want to just be limited to the CDC, and that's why I suggested that minor revision.
Yes, and as I noted, that was, I think, a pretty devastating decision when they made it. So that's one thing I would note there. And then I'm okay with because I want to be very clear on why I'm okay with the revisions as stated. Because this language, when you say for religious, medical, and the personal opinion, where did it go? I want to make sure I get this language right here. OKCPS had some language that I thought was pretty helpful here. Make sure, where did that go? Sorry, I had it right up and then my computer made it go away. But it's in line, the language when we say the personal reasons, that is in line with what OKCPS is doing right now. And so for that reason, I am okay with that language.
That's what I tried to do.
And then related to that, in terms of the CDC and Oklahoma City County Health, I will just note, and I'm quoting now, Oklahoma City County Health endorses the CDC K-12 school guidance, which includes vaccinations for anyone who is eligible, along with universal indoor masking by all students aged 2 and older, staff, teachers, and visitors to K-12. So again, if you're wondering why I'm putting forth this resolution, it is in guidance with both the CDC, OCCHD, and what OKCPS is doing right now as a school district. So I don't know if any other council member has a comment on.
Yes.
Yes, please.
I just want to make mention that as we mention articles and we mention things that have occurred and are occurring, we need to also keep in mind the science of what has happened. And I believe during that time frame, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, but during the time frame of the CDC suggesting that folks could no longer wear their mask if they are vaccinated, the Delta variant was being pretty much introduced to our country and across the globe. So it had not spread as rapidly as we've seen right now. And I just want us all to be aware, and we've heard some of the conversations from our OCCHD membership from our previous meeting, as we see, and in the past, so not just the 2 weeks ago, but continuously, and we all get the reports every day to see what's happening, that as this Delta variant continues and travels, it's mutating in a way that it's more coming, and we just have to be steadfast in our precautions. So I just want to make mention of that. When I say steadfast in our precautions, of course, social distancing, physical distancing, washing our hands, and also protecting our seniors and our most vulnerable, which are our children that are in our communities. And to hear of especially young people that are in our underserved and intentionally ignored communities, it is taking a toll on those families. So I just want to add those comments to how we work through this. And I know for us who are on social media as well, there have been a few of us sharing the posts from OCCHD or other entities that ask others to wear your mask or get the vaccination, whatever the case may be. And there are members of our city, residents, plenty of residents who are commenting on our posts to mandate something, to protect our city in some way. Granted, we have also received emails from those who said that they are our bosses and they are telling us not to mandate vaccinations, which is not something we can really do anyway. But at the same time, we can ask that we all take care of each other, again, in the efforts of this one OKC that we strive to be every single day. So those are the comments that I wanted to add to this conversation.
I would agree with what you said. I would add the word vigilant. We just need to continue to be vigilant.
I'd just like to make a comment that I think it's a little redundant to say that to have to add a piece to this that says this is not a mandate when it's obviously not a mandate. It's a resolution strongly encouraging residents to follow CDC guidance, including wearing a mask in public indoor areas. There's no information about enforcement or anything, so I don't really know why we need to do that. And I will point out that when Councilman Stonecipher and Councilman Stone put out a press release without talking to any other council members in March of this year, they cited dramatically improved COVID-19 data and announcing their joint proposal. Hospitalizations and new cases are about half of what they were when the mask ordinance was originally adopted in July of 2020. Test positivity rates have been below 5% for the last 2 weeks. I regret us not having a discussion about metrics that would have us re-adopt a mask mandate, because that information right there is not the case anymore. We are at full hospitalization, beyond full hospitalization, and we have been at double-digit positivity rates for almost a month. It has been steadily increasing since early July, and I think we're at just about 3 weeks of double-digit positivity test rate. So I think it's a little redundant and an opportunity for us to lessen the importance of this. And to Councilwoman Nice's point, the vigilance of creating an expectation that we mask and social physical distance indoors. And I think if we as a city are not setting that example as an organization or communicating that as a priority, then we're doing our health workers, our doctors, our nurses, caseworkers who do home health care and are trying not to get their patients sick a disservice.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table for the adoption of the amendment to the resolution.
I make that
Why
amendment
don't we
based
do that,
upon what I read into the record, and I've handwritten it out, and I'll give that to Amanda.
Right, I think we got it. So we just need to handle that virtually then and see if there's a
May I
second.
also say?
Yeah, real quick.
Yeah, thank you. To Councilwoman Nice's and Councilwoman Hammond's comments, I thank you for sharing them. I agree. I do think we should do more, in fact. Look, I mean, all cards on the table, like, it is 2021. This is 20 years after I turned 19. And the war in Afghanistan started all those years ago. If we had just done the right things back then, we wouldn't be 20 years on dealing with this then. I feel very similar right now in this moment that if we actually enacted a mask ordinance, we could be protecting people a lot more. Unfortunately, dear friends, please know those votes do not exist on this council at present. I'd do more if I could, and I would, if some of my colleagues would join me in that endeavor. And I would say that offer still remains on the table for us to do more and better by our people, and you will have a willing partner in doing so. And that is what my true belief is and what I would want to do. In this moment, however, the best I can do is encourage us to be our best selves to meet this moment, and so help me, I will. So with that, I would move forward.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion on the table for the amendment. Cast your votes. The amendment passes 6-2. And now we are on the resolution as amended.
Mayor,
Yes.
may I just offer a comment?
Yes.
And James, Councilman Cooper, thank you for your work on this. I do appreciate it. And as you can tell, I'm currently wearing a mask. My concern is I don't believe this resolution adds clarity to the discussion that's going around in our community. We have differences of opinions among school districts, among, government leaders. That's what I hope we could attain. And as you mentioned, perhaps we do need to, at our next meeting, look at a mandate. And as I've said before, I'm not a fan of resolutions. I don't think they accomplish really much of anything. And this just adds more, another voice to the discussion without adding clarity. So I'm going to vote no on the resolution from that perspective, that I don't see it helping us. I do think the solution is the vaccination. I'm concerned why people still to this day don't get vaccinated. I think we should have a stronger direction from our state government. That's adding to the confusion. And again, I'm just saying that I think this is another voice being added to the discussion that's not adding clarity. Even among us, we're going to have different opinions. So it's not that I'm against the idea per se, I'm just against the resolution. And I would welcome someone, if they wanted to present a mandate at a future meeting and have the discussion that would include.
Well, we'll bring that forward next meeting, no problem. And I know there's a few of us that will sponsor that mandate on this horseshoe. But I'm going to support it because we need something. Again, the issue is we still need a mandate. We need something more concrete, as we just heard. And thank you for saying that you would support something of that manner. We have to do something. And as we even heard for our city structure, we have to do more. A phone call came to this office yesterday from a wife of an employee who is now in the hospital. So we can do something. We have to do something. I don't want to lose any more city employees. I don't want to lose any more residents that belong in this great city. I don't want to lose any more residents that belong in this great state or this country. Because we, as this local body, have not taken a stance. So I'm going to support this, but as I just said, we'll bring something forward our next council meeting. And I really hope that all of us can add to it to ensure that we are protecting our residents in the wards that we serve, not just for ourselves, but for our city. Because I have a mother that I love dearly. That's the only thing I have left in this world. And I will go to the ends of the earth to protect her, although she made me get the vaccination. But I will still protect her in any way that I can. And if that means I have to stay socially distant from her, which we had to do last year, and we all expressed how we've had to do that from our prospective parents or family members, depending on the case or the proximity of our relationships to them, I will continue to protect her and any other senior, because our seniors have been responsible. We saw that. The numbers showed that when Mr. Blaine came and talked to us about it. Our seniors have been responsible. It's our age group that hasn't been. And we can change that. So again, I'll support this, and we'll bring something forward in our next meeting.
In fact, Amanda, I would like to go ahead and say right now that I will put forth alongside anyone on this council who would like to look into at this next meeting a mask ordinance. Let's start drafting that. And so help me, even if it loses, I will do this. And we will do this for our students to send a message for those students who are in their schools right now, not on this council, putting together masks to help meet this moment. If it loses, it loses. But there are voices in this city who I think we can do this together. And I really appreciate your comments, Councilman Greenwell. I really do. And yours too, nice, Councilwoman.
Okay, we have a citizen who signed up to speak on this item. Todd Nelson. Come forward. Mr. Nelson, should you just state your name and address and keep your remarks to 3 minutes or less?
Name and address, you said? You said state my name and address?
Yeah, name and address and keep your remarks to 3 minutes or less.
Okay. Todd Nelson, 14512 Fossil Creek Lane, Oklahoma City. Good morning. I'm here to speak about following the CDC guidelines. Oklahoma citizens are protected by the Constitution and the laws of the United States and the Constitution and the laws of Oklahoma, upon which every member of this council swore an oath. The CDC is not elected by the state of Oklahoma. The CDC does not answer to Oklahoma citizens. The U.S. Surgeon General on March 20th of 2020 said the data doesn't show that wearing a mask in public will help during a coronavirus pandemic. The CDC recommended it anyway. Oklahomans have a right to choose whether they want to wear a mask or not. I don't care if you want to wear one, that's fine. Either way, doesn't matter. You have that freedom. It is given to you. We have those freedoms and protections under the Constitution to make that choice. The government does not have the freedom to tell us what we can wear and how to manage our bodies. This council should be suggesting we protect the freedoms of our citizens, not following guidelines of the CDC who are profiting off this situation. I believe anyone who suggests that we follow the CDC, opposed to our freedoms, is breaking their oath of office and unfit for public service. We have an unlawful mask mandate last year, and I can only hope and pray that does not return. For those responsible for voting for it, I hope they don't break their oath of office again and vote for this. And continue to protect the freedoms of the people of this great state of Oklahoma. I've added this entire council, each of you, to my weekly prayers. Hope that you have God's blessing and guidance over your decisions. I appreciate the task that you guys have. It is a heavy weight. It's not an easy decision. But I asked only that you uphold the oath to which you all swore before God and the people of this great state. Thank you.
Okay, excuse me. Please, you have a right to sign up and speak if you wish to speak. All right. Is there any other comments? Otherwise, we can move the resolution as amended.
I have one more comment. I do want to make mention, I got a text message from a parent of a godson that goes to a middle school that just started last week, and there's already a positive case. So this is not going away anytime soon. So I just want to make mention of that as well.
Okay.
May I also say, as someone, as we vote, as I have said previously, I too, when I had a choice, dear friends, how to take the oath of office, I did so at my request on our United States Constitution and our Declaration of Independence, our country's founding documents. And in there it talks about promoting the general welfare. My people, Ward 2, this city, and so help me, I will.
All right. We've got a motion and pending a second. Motion and a second. Cast your votes. Resolution passes 6-2. All right, moving on. We have item 5, City Manager reports. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have any formal presentations. We just have a report in on our performance measures tied to the local economy, and I'm glad to answer questions. We have staff available to answer questions, or we can follow up later if the council wishes. So no formal presentation.
All right. Item 6, Journal of Council Proceedings. We have items A and B we can take with one motion. We've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 7, request for uncontested continuances. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. There are several that we have, starting on page 11, item 9 or 11 in 1. All of these items will be stricken from the agenda, starting with item A, 4409 South Broadway Avenue. The owner is secured. Item B, 4713 Creekwood Drive. The owner is secured. Item D, 3217 North Lindsay Avenue. The owner is secured. Item F, 2605 Spring Valley Circle. The owner is secured. Item H, the owner is removed, I'm sorry. Item H, 1519 Northwest 11th Street. The owner is secured. Item O, 1141 Southwest 34th Street. The owner is secured. Item P, 2616 Southwest 51st Street. The owner is secured. Item Q, 3637 Northwest 53rd Street. The owner is secured. Continuing on page 11, item 1101, all of these items are stricken from the agenda. Item A, 4409 South Broadway Avenue. The owner is secured. Item B, 4713 Creekwood Drive. The owner is secured. Item D, 3217 North Lindsay Avenue. The owner is secured. Item F, 2605 Spring Valley Circle. The owner is removed. Item L, 1141 Southwest 34th Street. The owner is secured. Item M, 3637 Southwest 53rd Street. The owner is secured. And item N, 2221 Southwest 61st Street. The owner is secured. That's all the items I have.
All right. Item 8, revocable permits and events. Item 8A is a revocable permit with the Asian District Cultural Association for the Asian Night Market, August 28th at 1200 Northwest 25th Street. And I saw Toon earlier. Welcome, Toon, if you wouldn't mind coming forward. And as usual, name, address, and feel free to tell us a little bit about the Asian Night Market.
Toon Nguyen, President of the Asian District Cultural Association. Thank you for having me here, Mayor, Councilman, Councilwomen. I wanted to come here and present to you the Asian Night Market Festival. We'll have it on August the 28th, 2021. I do know that there is a rise in the cases, so we have been working with the Oklahoma County Health Department and making sure that our event is safe and proper and friendly. We are distancing all of our tents, vendors, 10 foot apart. We encourage wearing masks, even though it is a public event and outside. We are doing some contact tracing with Oklahoma City County Health Department to ensure that all of our vendors, all of our volunteers, all of our staff, and also all of our sponsors and participants who are performing have temperature checks. And so we're doing the best we can to actually still have a festival. I know that in this environment it's kind of hard, but I think our city really needs events like this to bring people together. I also have with me our new programs director, Mr. Danny Vo. So,
Okay, thank you. Councilman Cooper?
Would you like to say some words as well?
You step outside to use the restroom for 1 second, and you miss the entire thing.
And these are the sort of words of wisdom we bring you from Ward 2. I'm so happy to see the two of you standing side by side. I'm forever and always saying, of course, our Asian district is the heart of the city in so many respects. And I also really appreciate your safety precaution notes that you are bringing into this particular event. And I'll trust that you will be doing your best to keep everyone as safe and secure as possible. So with that, I would invite everyone to this event. Come see what Ward 2's up to in our Asian district, and I would move for approval.
May I ask what time? I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, please.
oh, I'm so sorry, Councilwoman Nice. It starts from 2 to midnight, and this is a personal invitation to all of our council members and us as well, our mayor. We would love to see everyone out there if possible. 2 to midnight on August the 28th.
Great, thank you.
There we go.
All right, do we have a motion? Looks like we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes as soon as you have that opportunity. Passes unanimously.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mayor. Thank you so much, Councilman,
great event.
Councilwoman.
All right, 8B, revocable right-of-way use permit with the Down Syndrome Association of Central Oklahoma to hold the Down Syndrome Festival and 5K on September 25th on Sheridan and on Norick. We don't have anyone who has signed up to speak, but I do see Sarah, if you wouldn't mind. Name, address.
Hi, my name is Sarah Sewell. I'm the Executive Director for the Down Syndrome Association of Central Oklahoma. Thank you for reviewing this permit for us, City Council members and Mayor. We hope to host our event on September 25th. Of course, the care of our loved ones with Down syndrome is our main priority, so we have put some measures in place for our volunteers and staff to wear masks. We are going to highly recommend participants to wear masks. We will corral our 5K runners as well as our fun run runners with a motive overseeing our race and walk. Our awareness walk will begin about 10 o'clock, and we invite everybody to come out and celebrate. And we hope that you will approve this so that we continue our efforts to promote acceptance and inclusion for individuals with Down syndrome.
Thank you, Sarah. Councilwoman Hammond.
Yeah, I just want to, this sounds like a great event and very important cause in the community, so I will move for approval.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Thanks, Sarah. Okay, now we will recess the council meeting and convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority, where we have items A through G we could take with one motion. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Councilman Stonecipher, have you voted yet? Sorry. Passes unanimously. Now we'll adjourn OCMFA and convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority, where we have items A and B we could take with one motion. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. We'll adjourn OCPPA, reconvene as the council meeting, where we find ourselves on page 3 of your printed agenda. Item 9, the consent docket. We have a scheduled presentation on item AO, and that is it. Is there any council member who wishes to pull out an item for separate vote or separate discussion/comment?
Yes, I would like to pull item M.
N as in Nancy?
Sorry, M as in Mark, yeah, Mom, I don't
Okay.
know. And for a separate vote, I would just like to vote for deferral for more conversation and information for me.
Okay,
and
we'll get to that
anyone
in a
who wants
moment. All right, got it.
Yes, I wanted to mention AC, had a couple questions on that.
AC?
AC, yes.
Okay.
And then May, let's see. Are we hearing a presentation on Q and R?
We not currently scheduled to? No?
I'd like to hear a little bit more about those, please.
Okay.
And then item Z, please.
Okay.
And item AM. A is in A and M, yeah, thanks. And then
AM, M as in Mark?
Mark, uh-huh.
Okay.
And then same with 8X, and that'll be all for me. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, anything else? All right. We'll take them in order, which means we'll start with M, and also Georgie Rasco had signed up to speak on this item. I don't know where maybe to start. You want to start with your comments, Councilwoman Hammond?
Yeah, I wanted to defer this to have more discussion with staff. I was informed that over the last 7 years, their contract with the city has decreased quite a bit, even while the participation of an organization of neighborhood associations has gone up. I don't even know if I could calculate that percent, but at least almost 200 plus more neighborhoods that have organized or HOAs that are new to the city. All the while, having a decrease of, it looks like almost $35,000 to $40,000. So I'm just curious to hear from staff more about that and options for potentially increasing their contract given the amount of neighborhoods that we have that they're serving.
Okay, why don't you want to hear
Jeff
from...
Butler is here with the planning department, can address that, and if we need to defer and get more information, we can do that also.
Yes, Jeff Butler, Planning Department, Planning Director. The major decrease that they saw in their budget was as a result of the COVID cuts that came recently. But yes, we're certainly open to discussing more if you'd like to discuss, defer and continue to discuss that. They have a detailed contract with many different services and multiple funding sources as well. So happy to discuss or answer any questions.
I think I'd still prefer to discuss, I guess, offline, just given that I do see a decrease in like 27, 2018 that I'm guessing was maybe just some kind of economic issue because it did increase the next year. But even after that, I mean, I know we've been touting that we've been getting these record sales tax checks. So I'm just kind of curious why we're not able to get them back up to at least the place that they were prior to the year before the pandemic, if not help continue to increase their contract to help serve our neighborhoods.
Yeah, in some cases, it depends on the service that we're talking about. In some cases, the services that they were providing were instead provided by staff. So it really kind of depends on what we're talking about. They do various workshops for us, some of which over the years we've taken and done in-house. You know, as I said, they do have other funding sources that they use to provide funding for the additional neighborhoods that they bring on board. Again, happy to.
Yeah, I think I'd still like to have some meetings to just understand more about where those other funding sources are and kind of what that transition has looked like, if possible. So I guess I will move to defer item M, 9M.
Before we vote on that, can we hear from
Well,
Georgie?
since Georgie signed up, why don't we cover her first before we vote on that?
Thank you very much. Georgie Rasco, Executive Director of the Neighborhood Alliance of Central Oklahoma, 1236 Northwest 36th Street. Yes, and thank you very much, Councilman Hammond. We would like to defer this, and thank you, Planning Director Butler as well. We've enjoyed our contract very, very much with the City of Oklahoma City. It is, we have gone down from, we had $190,000 in the contract in 2014, and it has gone down to $157,000 as of this year. And as we know from the great news this last year, how dramatically our census has gone up, and of course that's also increased our services. I have to stop. I was going to make a public service announcement when I started, and then I thought I wouldn't after the last comment. But I did have COVID in 2020, serious bout of it, and I'm now dealing with COPD, so because of that. So I'm very sorry that I run out of breath very easily now, and I apologize for that. But it is what it is. We desperately do need to increase our funding. Yes, we do supplement as a nonprofit our funding in order to serve the needs of the community. However, it is very hard for us to find funding to serve the populations that we do, especially the homeowner associations. There's not a foundation out there that will give us money to provide services to homeowner associations, and that is becoming more than 50% of our clientele. They all look at them all as Gaillardias. They all live behind gated gates, private gates and private roads. You and I both know that's not true.
Right now, we have 30 HOAs in Oklahoma City that are in low to moderate income areas. They do not have a lot of lawyers and engineers that live in those HOAs. They don't have the capacity to really understand what's happening inside with their covenants and their bylaws. The low-income neighborhoods, really need our help in helping to develop the capacity to keep the neighborhoods going. One of our pride and joys was here today, which is Ruthie Presswood. When she was in 5th grade, was honored by our organization as one of our award winners. And she had the statement in a crowded room at the Skirvin Hotel in front of, I think it was at the Petroleum Club, in front of a room of 300 people in 5th grade. She stood in front of them and said, "Don't be in your neighborhood, be of your neighborhood." And we've taken that to heart ever since she said that and followed that and try to make sure that everybody does as well. So I apologize for the breathing. Thank you for trying to do something about masks. I appreciate that as well. We do ask you to please think about your neighborhoods. Your neighborhoods need us. You need your neighborhoods. We all need to work together, and we would very much need you to think about raising the contract. So thank you for considering it. Any questions? I promise I won't pass out on you. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgie. Thanks for all you do. Okay, so we'd like to then hear a motion to defer this item for 2 weeks, I presume?
Mayor, may I also add
Sure.
a comment? First, Councilwoman Hammond, thank you for drawing the collective body's attention to this issue. Georgie, please never apologize for taking a breath. We need you here, and I'm just so honored that Neighborhood Alliance calls Ward 2 its home. City Manager Freeman, as you're aware, I've raised this exact issue. I'm very concerned, and your articulation of it this morning, which I wasn't expecting, resonates with largely what my ongoing deep concern is when it comes to our neighborhoods. Your articulation of the fact that in so many Ward 2 neighborhoods, and y'all know I love Ward 2, I love all of our neighborhoods. Some of them have predominantly, families that are working class, working middle class. I'm thinking very specifically now in a kind of mirror image on the south side of our city at Jefferson, where I was teaching as a middle school teacher. So many of those students' parents are working 2-3 jobs. So the students, when they come home from school, are immediately either cooking, taking care of baby brother, sister, or cousin. And homework can kind of fall away. And so that was the college preparation program I taught, was how to, in class, prepare them for good study habits, right? But what that also taught me was that parents who are working those 2-3 jobs probably don't have that time. Though they might have the love of the neighborhood, be of the neighborhood, they don't have the time to dedicate to a neighborhood association. And I would go further and say that a lot of the resources and tools and best practices Georgie and her team have, and that they offer folk who have been able to create these neighborhood associations in our city. A lot of these neighborhoods I'm describing don't even know they exist. Just have no idea that these resources exist. No idea that these classes that Georgie will put on about the various departments which exist in our city. Very similar, come to think of it, as the experience our youth council gets. The youth council gets to learn how the different departments work, right? Our neighborhood associations can do that too, but only if they exist. So I actually think I like that we're having this conversation, because I think this needs to actually be a significant priority for our city, especially as we start preparing for a 2027 general obligation bond, or a bond in the interim to address our city's infrastructure needs. And either way, this means we need to be better as a city entity going out and talking with the residents in our neighborhoods about what their needs are, so that they can be preparing for when those bonds are coming. and not sit in frustration wondering why their street conditions are what they are, or why that drainage project for 20 years ago isn't funded yet. That builds resentment when they see other parts of town receiving those city services. And we can't afford those resentments if, as Councilwoman Nice used language earlier, and as Mayor Holt likes to say, we are in fact one OKC. So I think this entity as a city council and this entity as a neighborhood alliance are actually one of the most important investments we could be making.
Okay, so I guess we'll bring up the ability to make a motion to defer this item, which is 9M. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. He has stepped out. Passes unanimously. All right, back on the consent docket, taking items in order. Councilman Cooper wanted to talk about items Q and R, which are very different. So we'll
Very different, yes. I'd like for anyone tuning in or who would be tuning in later to be able to hear a little bit more about what this item is doing.
So Jared Shaded is here, our homelessness programs coordinator, to address any questions.
Good morning, Jared Shaded. I coordinate homeless programs for the city. This item is for application for the program called the Youth Homeless Demonstration Program. This program will function similar to the way our Continuum of Care program does. That's our program that provides permanent housing and services for homeless citizens with disabilities. However, unlike all of our other programs that we operate, none of those operate or provide services specifically for youth programs. They can provide services for youth, but they don't specialize in youth services. This program, that's the only thing it's focused on doing. It will provide services for programs like CSU Youth, Pivot, and other like transitional programs. There's a couple of examples. And focus on youth programming and other things that other kind of housing that other programs don't provide, such as sort of there's a program that is operated by by a Department of Mental Health that functions sort of like a temporary foster home program also. It's like transitional housing, but with families that will actually serve as a surrogate parent for the youth until they can move on. There's, again, several programs in the city right now that are developing some more programs, some transitional programs like CSU and Pivot. This program will help us provide some sustainable funding for those programs, which is kind of hard to come by. It's a very competitive program. They've been offering it for several years. We've applied all those years and come very, very close to getting it. This year, though, they're offering more than twice as many applicants an opportunity to receive funding. So we've crossing our fingers. We think we've got a better chance of getting it this year. So we're really hoping we can get this funding. And this is also in our strategic plan, homeless strategic plan, as one of our strategies for funding our youth services programs. Any questions?
Well, thank you for walking us through how this, of course, connects to the recommendations coming from the task force as well. I'm very excited about this. I wish one of our youth counselors, I think it was Campbell, who's very interested in this LGBT youth homelessness. And then we heard other students say this as well. It's just about homelessness. So thank you for this work and for the context.
All right, and item R?
And 9R. Learning a little bit more about this bike infrastructure and what we're thinking about wards 1, 2, 3, 6, and 7 along Route 66 here. Mr. Butler.
Yeah, again, Jeff Butler, Planning Director, and I also have Max and Harris here, one of our planners who does a lot of work for our bike and pedestrian infrastructure. This is something that was brought forward to us by ODOT and also the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, we would like ODOT is kind of pushing this with multiple cities, communities, counties throughout the state, so that we can have a unified route that would be a tourism driver and would benefit our community. So that's kind of the purpose of it, is really about tourism. What we've done is we've taken and put together a route, which you see on the map that's attached, that comes down from Edmond. The intent was to generally follow there were multiple Route 66 routes, but the intent was to generally follow those that route, and we've chosen a route that we feel is reflective of a safe and just a good route that takes cyclists through parts of our community that have services or points of interest and that are also safe routes, and also some of those which are pre-existing bike facilities, and some of which we're working on right now to improve as bike facilities.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate the just looking at this route. I don't know if Maxon, is there anything you'd like to add?
Nope, you covered it. I think, yeah, ODOT is looking for, approval from all the municipalities and, cities and counties and other agencies that that are along this route. So I think with our approval of it as a city, then they can take it to their ODOT, Oklahoma Department of Transportation board meeting, and then from there on to the federal agency. So.
Wonderful. Well, happy to contribute. Thank you both so much for your time.
All right. Staying with you, Councilman Cooper, item Z.
Yes, Ward 2 has some updates, it looks like, on our Belle Library expansion from the 2017 bond, and I believe we have Mr. Winger here with us to tell us more.
Thank you, Councilman Cooper. Eric Winger, Public Works Director. Item 9Z is a change order for the Belle Isle Library expansion project. This is a project that's been under construction for several months, and this change order is going to address some of the interior glass, which is also called glazing. So as it being an addition and a remodel, there's some coordination between the new construction and the old construction, and this change order helps take care of some of those integration issues that weren't known at the time of bid. Just as a reminder on this project, the existing Belle Isle Library is about 19,000 square feet. We're adding about 11,000 square feet to the existing structure. We're also improving the site with new parking and new access, some sidewalks around the site as well. It's in construction, as I mentioned, and it's due for completion in December of this year, so getting very close.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to you and your team for your work on this project.
All right, item AC, Councilwoman Nice.
Mr. Winger, you might as well come back up. I see we are looking at the arterial street resurfacing final acceptance for phase 1. So I'm curious as to other phases and when we can expect a date of completion.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilwoman. We are working on a Better Street, Safer City sales tax project on Martin Luther King, and this is from Northeast 36th to Northeast 50th. It is being constructed in 2 phases. The street is currently a concrete street. So phase 1 included the upgrade of the curbs and the sidewalk to get them to the current standards that are required before we start the street resurfacing. That work was complete, and this is the final acceptance just for that work today. So it has had no work done on the street itself. The acceptance of the phase 1 is a $737,000 project. We have phase 2 ready to go. It'll begin this fall. It's expected to take until next September of 2022, and with it being a concrete street, it's a little bit different than an asphalt resurfacing. We actually have to remove complete concrete panels that are damaged and replace those. It won't completely remove the entire street. Some of the panels are in good repairing condition, so some of those will be salvaged. But another part of this project replaces a drainage box structure that's underneath Martin Luther King to improve the drainage that's also in the area. So that's the reason that it's going to take nearly a year to do the construction. So that work will be starting soon, and the estimated cost on that is $1.9 million.
Okay. I know when we talked about this project prior to, as far as the arterial street resurfacing, and I'm hoping this is still a continuous conversation as we notice and understand a few caveats to this particular street. So one, I knew the street hadn't been finished because it's really bumpy. So I knew we hadn't even started that work. But I know some of our conversations prior have been with us looking at talking to Metro Tech in relation to the costs. Also, others that we know that can help us in this effort, with it being a concrete street, that is concerning. And also that area right on that corner of 36 and Martin Luther King that we have been in conversations with Metro Tech as well, because I'm in the overall appearance of what this looks like, and this is part of that. So I'm also curious where we are with those conversations as well. I know this is not the same project, but it is in relation to, because of how we look at that particular corner in those two huge, gigantic holes that are just surrounded by fence.
Right. So at 36th and Martin Luther King, there is a large area of property that's owned by Metro Tech that we've been working with them for over a year to do a partnership project where we've actually just recently received the easement information that's going to allow the city to go make the repairs to those sinkholes, to also then begin the planning for a future project for the replacement of the older line that's the cause for the sinkholes occurring on their property. So the city's not going to acquire the Metro Tech property. We're simply going to acquire a new easement along Martin Luther King that's going to allow a future drainage project to be planned and potentially constructed, but it's going to allow the city to go temporarily make those repairs. We're also working with Metro Tech on a couple of other partnership projects potentially to improve pedestrian safety for some of the street crossings in the area. So we have not secured those 100% yet, but it is an ongoing conversation. But simply the street projects in Oklahoma City are such of an expense, they were not able to partner with us on the street resurfacing portion of Martin Luther King, but other projects are underway.
Okay, well, that makes me more comfortable to understand that we are still working through that part with Metro Tech. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, item 8M, Councilman Cooper.
Yes, I was just looking to hear a little bit more about the particulars of this utility project. Hi there.
Good morning, Councilman. Chris Browning, Utilities Director. We have a sewer rehabilitation project in the general vicinity between Northwest 63rd and Northwest 60th from Colony Lane to Barnes Avenue. There are 4 homes in one stretch of that project where the sewer line is not located in an easement. It's an old line that was put in many, many years ago. It's dilapidated. We need to replace it, and we need to get it inside an easement. There is a current utility easement along the back property lines. The easement isn't quite wide enough to install the new sewer line. There is a storm line in that utility easement. So we need a little bit more space to put this new sewer line in. 2 of the property owners have agreed to sign an easement. 2 of the property owners don't agree. They would like us to put it somewhere else. We can't put it somewhere else. That's the low part of the property, and sewer lines have to be in the low parts. They're gravity fed, so they flow downhill. So we're going to continue to negotiate with those 2 property owners, but we would like permission to condemn the properties in the event that we do not get a favorable negotiation with those 2 property owners.
Do we have an outlook? How's this looking? Is this going to work?
You know, we're going to continue to try to negotiate, but they're not really in favor of us putting that line there. And again, it's a current utility easement. We just need a little bit more room. I think in one parcel it's about 12 feet wide, and the other it's about 3 feet wide to install this pipeline, and they just really don't want us back there installing the pipeline.
Okay. I keep our office posted as we learn more about this one. Just kind of curious about that. So
Yes,
thank
sir.
You.
All right. Item 8O has a presentation. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, Joanna McSpadden, our Economic Development Manager, is here to make a presentation on, this is a request or authorization to negotiate on an agreement with the outlet malls on a continuing incentive that helps to support marketing, regional marketing for the mall. And so I'll ask Joanna to just give us an update here in the presentation.
Hi, good morning, Joanna McSpadden, Finance Department.
As Craig said, the item you have here is consideration for authorization to negotiate. We've been approached by the Outlet Mall as their current agreement expires this year. It's a 10-year term. So before we go into the discussion about the discussions we've had with the Outlet Mall, I wanted to give you a quick history update. If you'll recall, back 10, 12 years ago, when we began the project, we spent about $2.4 million on infrastructure improvements for the site. That was drainage and street repairs and improvements. The current agreement, as I said, was a 10-year term. The maximum annual incentive was $550,000 a year, which was funded through general fund sales tax receipts. This annual incentive amount was contingent on a sales threshold at the Outlet Mall. And then the reimbursement of that $550,000 was for specific regional marketing expenses. The results of the 10-year term that we've experienced with the Outlet Mall is about $1.3 billion in total sales, which has resulted in over $52 million in city sales tax, and you can see the breakdown there between the general fund and the other sales tax categories. And their total incentive that they have received over that 10 years is the $5.3 million. And just a quick update of kind of where we are right now. I believe the item you have before you has an estimate of $1.35 million. So the current discussions that we've had with them is that we would propose a 5-year term extension, with the first year being $350,000 and the following 2 to 5 years being $250,000, with a very similar structure that they meet a sales threshold each year and that it's reimbursement of specific regional marketing expenses. The next steps, if you were to approve the authorization today, would be for us to move ahead and finalize those terms with the Outlet Mall and bring back a draft agreement for your consideration, hopefully at the August 31st meeting. I'd be happy to answer questions.
I have a couple questions. As we look at this particular agreement and the money that has been received, and also where we are with outlet malls, outdoor types of retail in general, I would prefer that we maybe do this annually, as far as to look at us giving that incentive if this is what we're going to do, not just, but I'm pretty sure it may come before us again, but I want to ensure that it comes to us annually for us to look at, instead of us just agreeing to the terms today for 5 years.
We can look at that.
Yeah, we could incorporate into that we would have renewals, annual renewals, as opposed to just having a 5-year agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that, as a shopper that I have a habit of, we again see the decline in a lot of aspects of those places, and some of my favorite stores are no longer in place around our city, and especially around the outlet mall. And it's so hard to get there in a lot of ways because of traffic, just the traffic that we have on the highway. So I know those are a lot of caveats to say what I'm saying, but it all matters, because if people have deterrents or they know the traffic's going to be too heavy, sometimes you don't go. So again, I know those are also going to be concerns for a lot of people, even myself, when it pertains to being able to travel and use my time to get to this particular part of our city.
And we do have some projects that are going to be working in that area to try to help address that, because you're exactly right. It really is becoming a problem. We also will have thresholds that we're going to propose with the outlet malls, thresholds of sales that we want them to try to achieve, which trying to get some of those stores that attract people in is going to be one of the motivators there. They have to reach those thresholds to get that regional marketing reimbursement. So we'll make sure that we have that included as well.
I'm curious how we get that calculated sales tax, because my understanding was we're not able to actually see like per property sales tax reports where it's by industry. So how do we
That's correct.
know that it's this property versus any other outlet shopping center.
Thank you for asking that question. I missed saying on my results slide, those are the 1.3 billion in sales is provided to us by the outlet mall, by specific stores. So they have a contract in play. The contract requires them to provide us that data. So it is estimated based on that report that they send us, but we have measures in place to verify and validate that information to the best of our ability with the authorized use of our sales tax data, as you said.
And there are some stores that do, even though they may have multiple stores, locations in Oklahoma, they do report by the individual store. It's just like what you just stated is exactly right, that a lot of them will remit corporately. So if they have multiple stores, you just get one. And so our treasurer's office goes back and looks at those individual stores. They'll also monitor like the corporate sales that are reported on the ones that report regionally to ensure that those are in, that we're confirming to the degree that we can the numbers that are provided to us.
Okay. And I think my other comment sort of in tandem with Councilwoman Nice is I have a hard time with us investing funds in spaces that were not really meant for people. And I think to Councilwoman Nice's comment about the traffic is any outlet mall, any development like that is built for cars. And so any projects aimed at alleviating the traffic need to include creating them to be more walkable, accessed by public transit. And I know that there is a bus that goes down to the Reno mini hub there, but I never go to these shops because and again, there's data that shows that people who bike, walk, and use public transit typically spend more money in retail spaces that they're interacting with and proximity with and passing by. And so there's the sense of us investing these types of funds in sort of a not very sustainable model. And again, with a lot of these national chains pulling out retail stores and just really kind of pushing people to online, it just doesn't really make a ton of sense to me that we would continue to kind of invest in a model that really seems to be disappearing nationwide. So, but again, I'm not going to stop this train today, so I just need to feel like I make those comments.
Okay. Thank you, Joanna.
Mayor?
Yeah.
I would also just echo those comments. I have no intention of trying to do anything to stop the ship today. You all know how I feel about being able to walk to shops and bike to shops and having shops that are serving neighborhoods. And this sort of outlet mall approach to our society for the last 40 years has been one that I think has put us in a lot of not so healthy places. And so I'm really glad then saying that part of the outcome for today is to have this annual look. I think that's really great. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Last thing that had been mentioned was item AX, Councilman Cooper.
I know. Northwest Expressway and Classen Boulevard. Well, actually just Classen Boulevard. I don't know where I got Northwest Expressway from, but tell us a little bit more about what's coming.
For OKC Beautiful's contract, we are incredibly grateful to this organization annually for their assistance to us and how they help us continue to beautify that corridor of Classen Avenue. It's just one of those renewable agreements with them, and again, we just really appreciate their partnership and continue to look forward to working with them in the future.
Thank you, and thank you for this work. I appreciate you.
Thanks.
All right, that concludes the consent docket. We could take a motion now to adopt it, save the item that was previously deferred. Got a motion and a second? Cast your votes. He stepped out. Had a very fluid membership today. Okay, passes unanimously. That brings us to item 10, the concurrence docket. We have items A through K we can take with one motion. We hung up. There we go. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes as soon as you can. Passes unanimously. I have to step out for just a few minutes. I'm going to turn the chair over to Vice Mayor Nice.
All right, we are going to move to item 11, items requiring separate votes. First, we have item A, 11A, ordinance on final hearing, recommended for approval, PUD 1817, and this is Ward 8.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This is a rezone, deals with 19301 North Pennsylvania Avenue. The applicant is Hunter Miller. It went before the Planning Commission and it was approved. Staff recommends approval, but one thing that I noticed on this was that there were some protests. And I'm sorry. Okay, just one second. Okay, you just threw me off.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. And I wanted to at some point either have Kenny, Amanda, someone explain the difference between a legal protest and just protest and what we have involved here. And I take it we have the applicant here to speak, which kind of surprised me. And let's hear from the applicant, and then we'll hear from Kenny or Amanda about the protest.
Steve Rollins, Arc Engineering Consultants, 135 Deer Creek Road in Edmond, representing the applicant. Again, this is property at the northwest corner of 192nd and Penn. We're requesting that this property be changed from its current zoning of under PUD 1225 C3 to about 1.43 acres of C3 remaining at the hard corner, and the rest would be changed to R4 residential. It's about 4.51 acres. Bordering that R4 is self-storage to the west and another small apartment complex to the north. We have, previously this application was set to be heard on Planning Commission in May 13th, and we delayed that a couple of weeks, a month, to at the request of Commissioner Cravens in order to address several comments that he had that he felt like would make this a better application, and also to give us time to meet with the neighbors. We did meet with the neighbors and on June 3rd, had 20 to 25 people at that meeting representing 5 different neighborhoods. Also, Officer Scala with the Oklahoma City Police Department, PCR officer, was also there to talk with the neighbors about their concerns with apartments and with crime in their neighborhood, things like that. A few of the other things that we discussed in that meeting that were neighbors' concerns were overcrowding of the schools, crime from apartments. They also desired that there be no more residential for this area, that it remain as C3 zoning as it is right now. Some of my conversations with Commissioner Cravens, and those have either been addressed in the PUD or is shown as TEs to be adopted today. Those things had to do with striking several C3 use units that weren't appropriate for the area, funeral homes, hoop houses, things like that. We also discussed a lot about buffering between the C3 on the corner and the proposed residential. Things like building limit lines, 10 foot on each side of that line. Also landscaping, 20-foot trees planted on 20-foot centers. Also evergreen plantings that provide an impervious visual barrier between the two pieces of property. Also
if that C3 were to develop with some sort of outdoor speaker, there would be a minimum distance of 150 feet from the speaker to the residential property. We also limited the density within the R4 to 24 units per acre, which is well under what Oklahoma City allows within the R4. So we feel like we've done a lot to address commissioners' concerns. We've met with Councilman Stone Cipher on a Zoom meeting about a week ago. There were several staff members on there, as well as at least one neighbor, and it was basically the same conversation during that meeting. Nothing new was brought up during that call. But we feel like we've got a good project. We feel it's a great fit for the area, that Oklahoma City still does need more. There is a demand for housing in this area, and I think planning commissioners agreed with that as well. We've tried to listen to the neighbors. We've tried to listen to commissioners and councilmen to address their concerns and get those into the PUD. So we would ask for your approval today. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Yeah, the one thing I'd say, Kenny, is that whenever I have one of these that has some notice of protest, despite the fact that Planning Commission recommended approval, despite the fact that staff recommended approval, I try to reach out to those that are concerned. And I think the applicant has done that too in face-to-face meetings. And like he said, we had a Zoom meeting. And then I had an in-person meeting with some of the concerned citizens. And so can you just kind of explain, Kenny, the difference between what kind of protests we have here and don't have here?
Yes, to be a statutory or legal protest where it would have the effect of increasing the number of votes required to pass the ordinance, it has to be within the notice area. We send out notice to 300 feet, or if you don't get 10 owners by 300 feet, you send it for 1,000 feet. So it would be a protest by a certain percentage of owners within that notice area. And then Bob and JJ calculate whether it's a sufficient percentage. You have to have 50% or more of the area of the lots within 300 or 1,000 feet from the exterior boundary of the subject property. So it's not a legal protest unless you have that percentage within that area.
And so just to clarify, in this instance, the people that were properly notified, there were no legal protests as to this development, correct?
I don't believe so.
Yeah. I don't believe, Vice Mayor, you're back, Mayor. Has anybody signed up in opposition to this?
No.
All right. With that being said, I would move for approval at this time.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, 11B is an ordinance on final hearing that was recommended for approval at 4901 Southwest 149th Street, going from I-2 to PUD 1824. And Councilwoman Young is not here. Did anybody communicate with her about presenting this? You want to go for it, Councilman Carter?
Been happy
You
to
did
help.
her youth councils.
I got you.
There's no one signed up to speak, so really it's.
Okay.
Are you representing the
I
applicant?
represent the applicant, Mayor.
Okay. You want to go ahead, Eric?
But we have nobody that signed up in opposition either?
No.
Correct.
Good morning, Mayor, members of the council. I represent the applicant, and my clients, principals in the applicant, Ronnie Mason and Kyle Mason, are here somewhere, right there, to answer any questions you may have about this property. This is a unique and innovative PUD situated on South Meridian, north of Southwest 149th Street. It's about 100 acres of vacant land, and what we plan to do with it is make it available to tenants who will rent storage space for heavy vehicular machinery. There's a lot of that kind of equipment around town and not quite enough storage space. So we plan to meet that market demand. And this PUD is designed in a way to allow that kind of storage of equipment with a pervious surface. We'll have a nice entrance on South Meridian Avenue, and I think it'll be a successful project. Any questions?
if you have any big equipment and you want to store it, we'll be there for you.
Is that to the south of that, is that a sod farm?
Oh, I couldn't hear you, sir.
I'm sorry, is that a sod farm to the south of it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we ask for your approval. I also want to thank all the folks on the staff and in the municipal counselor's office who helped me shepherd this thing through. It had a few unusual things. I got a lot of help from the staff.
All right, well, somebody want to make a motion for approval?
I'll move for approval.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. All right, 11C, this is an ordinance on final hearing. It was recommended for approval, closing, vacating, discontinuing, and foreclosing the right to reopen a portion of Stiles Avenue / Stiles Circle north of Northwest 9th, and an easement in accordance with the Harrison Walnut Urban Renewal Plan as amended. Councilwoman Nice.
Yes, I know the applicant is present, but I know the purpose of this is to consolidate to prepare for the conversion of the pedestrian plaza, which is in the Innovation District, which are other concerns that I have, but I won't worry about those today. So I'll move for approval.
Okay. Motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, item 11D is an ordinance on final hearing establishing a 45-degree angle parking within an existing setback parking area on the east side of North McKinley, near Northwest 28th, et cetera. Councilman Cooper.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We spoke briefly about these in our previous council meeting. I have nothing new to add, and I'd move for approval.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes.
My screen's not up, so I move
Okay,
yes.
you'd like to vote aye?
Yes, please.
Passes unanimously. All right, item E, ordinance on final hearing establishing 2 reserved parking spaces for the physically disabled on the east side of McKinley from approximately or near Northwest 28th, similar area. Councilman Cooper.
Same song, different verse. I would move for approval, please. By doing that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item F, ordinance on final hearing removing metered parking on the south side of Couch near Lee. Councilwoman Hammond.
Yes, this would just create a loading zone versus having a metered parking space, so I'll move for approval.
Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item G is an ordinance on final hearing establishing a reserved parking space for the physically disabled on the south side of Couch near Lee. Councilwoman Hammond.
Yes, so this would sort of reinstate that parking spot, but in a different spot for folks who need closer access to the building, so I will move for approval.
Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. 11H, ordinance on final hearing establishing metered parking on the east and west sides of South Harvey from West Reno to Southwest 2nd. Councilwoman Hammond.
I will move for approval.
Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. 11I, ordinance on final hearing establishing reserved parking spaces for the physically disabled on the west side of South Harvey, near Southwest 2nd, et cetera. Councilwoman Hammond.
I will move for approval for this as well.
Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. 11J, ordinance on final hearing establishing a reserved parking space for the physically disabled on the south side of Southwest 15th, near South McKinley. Councilwoman Hammond.
Yes, I will move for approval.
Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item K. This is a public hearing regarding the ordinance relating to electric-assisted bicycles on certain trails. We had a presentation on this at the last meeting. Today is merely the public hearing. Vote would be held at the next meeting. Amy, has anyone signed up to speak on this public hearing?
No, they haven't.
All right. We will move on then to item L. This is an ordinance to be introduced, set for a public hearing on August 31st and a final hearing on September 14th, relating to solid wastes, amending Chapter 49 of the Oklahoma City Municipal Code. And we have a presentation.
Yes, sir. Chris Browning, our Utilities Director, is here to give us an overview on this proposed ordinance.
Good morning. Chris Browning, Utilities Director. Back in April of 2020, the Utilities Department discontinued bag trash collection to protect the health of our employees from possible COVID-19 exposure. The customers affected, those who generally would put out the bag trash, were provided additional carts if they choose to have one. Those cart fees were waived temporarily during the COVID-19 so only 4% of the customers actually requested any carts. So a very small percentage of our customer base asked for carts. So we put a little video together to kind of illustrate the benefits of going to full containerization. So Michelle, if you'd go ahead and start the video, I'd appreciate it. So our fleet, as you'll see here in a second, is generally automated, where we pull up with the truck, pick up the can, and it's emptied automatically without the driver having to get out of the truck. So in order to pick up bags, the driver has to get out of the truck and manually throw those bags up in the air about 8 feet. And in some cases, we have 20, 25, 30 bags. So the driver's having to get out and throw those bags up in the truck. That's our number one cause of injury for our collection staff. We've had over 450 lost days due to injuries doing that one thing. And then some folks asked if we could just pick it up with bulky. Well, as you can see, that doesn't work very well. We use these big claws to pick up the bulky material and put it in a truck. And they're just not, it's just not practical to try to pick these bags up with our bulky collection. So some of the other benefits from March to November 2020, solid waste division crews collected over 23,000 tons more during that time period than prior years on average. But we did it without adding any extra staff because we weren't picking up the bags. We weren't slowing down the collection by getting out of the truck and collecting those bags and throwing them in the truck. So we did it without adding any extra staff or vehicles. So we know now if we don't collect bags that we can grow a bit more and not have to add any equipment or any staff. So it's a savings to the ratepayers. So going full containerization will also improve cost equity. As you saw in the video, I mean, there's a big pile of bags there. We don't charge extra to pick those up. However, we pay about $125,000 a year extra to have them collected. So the low volume users are subsidizing the high volume. We pay Waste Management about 10 cents a bag to pick them up, and they pick up a lot of bags every year. So 125,000 bags per year. So for your base fee, you get 2 blue and 1 green recycle cart, and you get bulky collection once a month. So we're going to continue that, and it's just over $23 for that fee. If the people want to keep those extra carts so they don't put bags out, it's $2.25 a month per cart. So you're already going to get 2, plus a recycle. So if they need that third or fourth cart, they'll pay $2.25 a month more for each of those carts. So it's a very small percentage for all the benefits that I just spoke about. So at this time, we would ask you all to consider the resolution, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, and just to clarify, it's an ordinance change.
I'm sorry?
Just to clarify, you said resolution, I wanted to say it's an ordinance change is what it is,
Yes.
yeah. Todd?
One question, and sorry that I didn't think of it before. If you live in a non-recycling area, do you get your third one included, your third blue?
At this time, in the non-recycling areas, in the rural areas, we have recycling services, but you have to take it to that spot. So no, there would not be a third cart for no additional fee because we're already collecting recycle in that area, and we're going to grow that urban area. As we get more density in those fire grids that are rural right now, we will add them to the normal recycle schedule.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Do you all have a percentage or an estimate of how much of that bulky waste has been, like those bags, like yard waste, like leaves and tree limbs and things like that? So people are putting like leaves in bags for you all to pick up in bulky waste, or they should be putting them in their cart. Do you have a percentage about, or do you have a sense of how much of our waste is that landscape waste, landscaping?
I don't.
Okay.
Now, this has been an odd year, Councilmember. We picked up tons and tons more this year because of the ice storm and because of the winter freeze. So I really don't have an estimate. But what I do know, only 4% of our customers asked for additional carts, so they didn't have to use bags. So that might give you some sense of the extra volume.
Okay. I just ask because it's one of my sort of frustrations, or like my personal pet peeves, I suppose, that we dispose of leaves into a landfill when there's a lot of ways that they can actually benefit your grass. And places like OSU Extension or OKC Beautiful have classes, materials on how to do that in a way that still maybe meets certain aesthetic standards, but doesn't contribute to our landfills with organic matter. So I just kind of a PSA for anyone watching and is interested in not maybe having to get that additional cart. There are opportunities to kind of divert that landscape waste from our landfills and either compost it or mow mulch and do different things to kind of, and maybe this is the push some folks need to, that 4% might take up opportunities to learn about some of those waste diversion of specifically that organic matter. So just curious if we had any estimates.
Yes, ma'am. As a matter of fact, we have a water conservation group that go through the year presenting those kinds of things to our customers, to mulch, to use leaves, to use organic matter, to create mulch, to help mulch the beds, to help lower the water demand, to actually aerate your grass and punch this down into the soil as a soil conditioner. So they're out in front of about 30,000 people a year, and that's one of the messages that they spread to help people manage their landscaping more economically. Thank you.
Chris.
All right, so the motion today would simply be to introduce the proposed ordinance change. We can handle that virtually if the council so wishes. Looks like we've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Ordinance is set for public hearing on August 31st. Final hearing potentially on September 14th. Okay, now we are at item M. This is the public hearing regarding the dilapidated structures here listed. Has anyone signed up to speak under this public hearing?
No, they haven't.
Mayor,
Yes.
I received a message for item A. I'd like to defer that for 2 weeks, please.
Okay. All right, are you wishing to speak on one of these items? Yes. Okay. Well, which item?
Thank you for letting me speak. Councilwoman Nice,
the property has not been abandoned, and yes, it is, the structures and sound, but I have boarded the building up. I've had homeless.
Is this item A, by the way, just to clarify? Is this item A that you're speaking about at 2600 South I-35?
South I-35,
Okay.
also AKA South Prospect Avenue. But the inspector who came out for the ordinance, Inspector Printers, I had spoke to her, as soon as I got the notice, I called her for days on end. It probably took me a week to get her to call me back. We spoke. She said, well, she goes, okay. She goes, I'm going to, because we were supposed to have the sale on June 8th is what it was originally set for. They said, she goes, okay. She goes, well, the only problem I see right now is there's a tree that's kind of obstructing the view if someone was to pull in the parking lot to try to pull out. I said, I'll have it down, and we did. We got it down immediately. Well, apparently between that time I talked to her and then the following probably 5 days when she went by there again, somebody decided to use the parking lot as a dump to dump tires. At that point, she calls out whoever, and I get a bill for $3,000. I disagree with what they did to it, but I do have problems with the people, the homeless keep breaking in. I mean, I've had them pry bar, the doors open, and we have mowed the lawn and everything. I've got emails with the inspector from my realtor and from, they also sent her the contract that it's under. It was delayed due to, I received the property through my son who passed away in 2013. I closed the business down and stuff, and I've been trying to figure out what to do to the building, how to do it. I've got it under contract, but when I paid it off in, I think 2015 it was, the people that, Jerry and Donna Smith was the people we purchased the property from. Well, they were elderly then, and when I spoke to him, when we got the last payment through, he's like, oh, thank you for everything, And he was having issues with his wife with onset of dementia and stuff, apparently, and he was having to put her places. So he failed to give a lien for like $100,000, which has been resolved at this point, but they passed away, both of them. So I had to get an attorney, David Hickey, who has then went through the last 60 days. We had extended the contract, which the buyers agreed to, and he got it signed yesterday, from my understanding. And then, since we have that, it's a quiet claim, something like quiet claim deed type thing, is whatever it's called. But I do have the contracts, it's under contract, but at minimum, could you please give me 30 days, because the people that are buying the property are actually going to demolish the building. They're going to put a whole new structure. I have no idea what, but they're going to demolish the building, which will solve the problem, period, there.
Okay.
And I just asked for...
Are you Miss Lisa?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, I did receive your message.
Thank you. A couple of them, right?
Yes, ma'am. I got this one this morning. But for that, if you don't mind, I would like to defer it until this time next month.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And this will show up again on our abandoned, so I'll have to defer that as well.
So 2 meetings, 4 weeks?
That
Okay.
sounds right,
Okay.
yes.
Which one?
All right, so that'd be September 14th. So the motion is to defer item M1A for 4 weeks.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, we're back on the remaining items at M1, and with no further people signed up to speak, we could handle the resolution found at M2 declaring that the structures are dilapidated. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, 11N1 is the public hearing regarding the unsecured structures here listed, except for those struck at the beginning of the meeting. Has anyone signed up to speak under this public hearing?
No, they haven't.
All right, hearing none, we can move to N2, which is the resolution declaring that the structures are unsecured. Got a motion and a second on the resolution. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. 1101 is the public hearing for the abandoned buildings here listed, and I expect we want to take a motion to defer item 01C for 4 weeks, 2 meetings.
Yes, please.
Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Has anyone else signed up to speak under this public hearing here?
No, they haven't.
All right, so let's look at 02, the resolution declaring that the buildings are abandoned. Except for those, of course, struck at the beginning of the meeting. We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, 11P, 1 and 2 are related. 1 is a public hearing regarding the Stockyards Business Improvement District, and 2 is the resolution. There's no scheduled presentation, but we do have someone signed up to speak for this item. David, can't read that last name, sorry. But if you would step forward, state your name and address, and keep your remarks to 3 minutes or less. Thank you.
I'm David Lanham, reside at 628 Lakeside Circle, Edmond, Oklahoma. We own the property at 1100 South Avenue through 1118 South Avenue, approximately 200 lineal feet of the Business Improvement District. And I would like to speak in support of the extension of this. It provides better security, safety in the area, plus improved economic development of the area, and I really think it should continue to be extended further and even expanded further. Just want to express my support as a property owner, business owner. We've been in the area since 1978, and my father was one of the original people on the Stockyards Council. Began, 35 years ago. So I just want to express my support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, no one else has signed up to speak on the public hearing, so we'll move to P2. This is the resolution creating the Stockyard City Business Improvement District, City of Oklahoma City Improvement and Special Services Assessment District number 13, in and around the intersection of Agnew and Exchange, an area commonly known as Stockyard City, etc. What would the council like to do with the resolution? Looks like we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, 11Q1 is a public hearing regarding allocation for the Boulevard Place apartment project. Has anyone signed up to speak on the public hearing?
No, they haven't.
Okay, they have not. And that brings us to Q2, which is the joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust approving an allocation in an amount not to exceed $1.5 million from increment district number 2 for the Boulevard Place project, et cetera. Comments, discussion, motions.
Well, I think as far as comments, that's what you asked. We had a very healthy discussion, I would say, about this 2 weeks ago. And I know my thoughts still have not changed from really looking at how we use our money and our funds for projects that have been introduced and promised to our communities in one way, and we receive something different. And one of my other concerns, as we've talked about as well, and this is something that we all know and understand, it's really hard to continue to say, oh, we're going to do it on the next project. We're going to do it on the next project, when we can really be intentional about the projects that are presented right now. So that's how I feel about it. I know this is going to be beautiful for someone, not for all, and that's the unfortunate part about this development.
Okay.
Yeah, I would only add, and I said quite a bit last council about it, so I won't go into all those details. I can't help but say, though, having been a part of the initial inception of this project and thinking about those studio apartments that would have been at that $650 monthly rent, and to see where they are now at that $1050, that's shifted my support away from the project. So too, do I have a bit of a clarity about the work ahead of us as a city. I'm sure we'll be talking more about our housing needs in the coming weeks as the city turns its attention toward a housing study that we've done. I can just tell you that having looked at some of that data, it confirms what I've been living through for the last dozen years here in the city since Stillwater, my grad school days. We have a shortage of rental and ownership properties, I've learned, for that 1 to 2 family household. And the supply we have to meet that need for the people who've moved to our city, who live in our city, we don't have that supply. And the inverse is true in terms of we built too much housing for a 3 to 5 family household when the demand is not there. We've done something super inverted in the marketplace that doesn't make a lick of sense. And for anyone who's finding themselves bored by what I'm saying, don't, because the emails and the calls that Ward 2 is receiving about homelessness is completely related to this. When there is a housing shortage, then it stands to reason people will be without homes. And that's what we're living in. And so I can't tell you how painful it is to receive on a daily basis these emails about homelessness, knowing that we've done so much to set in motion with MAPS for those investments to get us moving in way healthier directions when it comes to housing. But the needs are that much stronger. And I would ask everybody who's been emailing and expressing their concerns about homelessness, I've offered Homeless Alliance folk to be able to connect them to services, the Mental Health Association of Oklahoma to connect folk with services. My question to people as a city now is really just one, two-part though. Are we ready to really use the next bonds and maps to invest in housing the way that we need to, that we know our people need to? And if the answer is not, if the answer is no, then what is everyone's solution in addressing homelessness in our city? I'd like to kind of hear it. That's kind of where I'm at now. I think it's housing and connecting folk to case management services so they don't fall into cycles of homelessness like we see. So I'm just very curious now. What are those solutions? So all that to say, I think all this is tied together, and in terms of the affordable housing conversation and homelessness. And so I've been thinking a lot about that. And so that's where I am on this issue. Thanks.
I would just have one comment to sort of add on to Councilman Cooper's comments, that we don't have a housing shortage. We have a safe, decent, and affordable housing shortage. Right now in the city, there are multiple apartment complexes where dozens of residents are living without water because the property owner will not pay the water bill, and the residents can't get it turned on with the city because it's under the account is under the property owner. They have used, multiple of those tenants have accessed CARES dollars from the city to help pay their rent and utility bills. But the majority of the residents who live in those apartment complexes are low income, living on a fixed income if they're elderly, sick, and they're in places that don't have as much access to public transit and services and amenities. So similarly to this discussion about wages, we don't have a worker shortage, we have a wage shortage. And for all of this talk about how if we raise the minimum wage, prices for everything are going to go up, well, it looks like prices for everything are already going up, and that includes rent, but it does not include wages. So the people who are struggling day to day on low or fixed incomes and need supportive services that we will not fund at adequate levels, and they are going to be living without water, living without electricity for months. These buildings have been living without both of those things. And nearby properties have been willing to let them fill up buckets of water from their outside hose so that they can flush their toilets, make some coffee, cook some food. And the fact that we aren't putting all of our efforts into addressing those issues and rather just saying, well, prices have gone up, so rents are going to have to go up, is just, to me, it just doesn't make any sense for someone who looks outside on a day-to-day basis and sees new people falling into homelessness for the first time, not knowing where to go or what to do. And to Councilman Cooper's point, we need to double down on creating safe, affordable, and decent housing for people across the income spectrum, and this just doesn't meet that goal.
Just to echo on Joe Beth's comments, when we have a bad landlord like that, and I may have to ask you, Wiley, since Kenny's not in here, that's not even supplying basic needs such as water, it would seem to me that we would have options where we could file a writ of mandamus, seek injunctive relief, declare a nuisance, condemn the property, appoint a receiver, not just to let these people suffer. And it would seem to me that the city would have some vehicle by which we could put some pressure on this bad landlord.
Wiley, can you help us with that? Of what measures we could take to try to intervene for tenants in a situation
Well, I don't
like
know
this?
that we have anything in the state statutes or our code that allows us to do that at this point, but there's certainly things that we can explore and
Yeah, let's
and
do this.
try to bring into the future,
Would
certainly.
you take a look at that issue and see what we could do as a city, and then send some type of email or memo to each one of the council people, please?
I can tell you on one of these specific situations, it's in my ward, and regardless if he's a bad landlord or not, because of moratorium and him not being able to evict when things aren't being paid, he's having to still try to put things together, but hasn't received rent. He's trying to figure out a way to get it done. I don't agree with some of the things that he's done and tactics in that sense, but he has no recourse for people who aren't paying their bills, and yet he's supposed to continue to do so. And he's used up the funds that have been given to him to try to help his business out. So it's a catch-22 in all regards.
Yeah, come to the city and work out a payout plan and agree
And
to
we've
have a
got one
lien
worked
put on your
out.
property or something.
We've sent him one. We've got one worked out with him. It's just it's a very large down payment that he's going to have to come up with.
I appreciate that additional information. Thank you.
And Wiley, as we're learning some of this, and I believe these are conversations we've already started discussing when it comes to like right to counsel, and I think there's some homelessness task force recommendations as well. But yeah, I'd like to kind of, it's whatever we can do to get that ball rolling, whatever recommendations can come, because that affordability point is so important, because what I'm learning is what happens is someone complains about the conditions in their apartment. Maybe that 1 to 2 bedroom was at market rate or less until the person complains. They complain, they get kicked out, they have no protections. Property owner raises the rent, puts a new person in. And then all of this is contributing to the homelessness issue, right? Of someone losing their home, their credit makes it hard now to go on to get the next home. Renting, we're not even talking about ownership, right? So that's contributing to our homelessness problem, but it's also contributing to our housing affordability problem, because if these people keep raising these rents in these ways, and that's just in that scenario, we're seeing the affordability issue. But then we're also seeing people who are renovating these apartments, building new ones, and just charging astronomical prices for them that a lot of our people just can't afford. I can't be kind about it. A lot of our people cannot afford these rents. So whatever you got, Wiley, bring it to bear. We're happy to hear it. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, what does the council wish to do then with 11Q2? Okay. Got a motion and a second? Cast your votes. Passes 5-3. All right, 11R1 is a public hearing regarding allocation in support of the Ancillary Infrastructure Program. Amy, has anyone signed up to speak under this public hearing?
No, they haven't.
Okay. Then we're at 11R2, which is the joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust approving an allocation of $500,000 from the other public development cost budget category for Increment District 2 in support of the Ancillary Infrastructure Program. Forgive my ignorance, Craig. What does this relate to?
So Kathy provided a presentation on this last time.
Okay.
There's a portion of TIF Increment 2 that allows us to allocate funds to do some infrastructure improvements within the TIF project area.
Okay.
Mostly like alley improvements,
Okay.
small paving projects, sidewalks, things like that.
Okay, thank you. And you presented on this last time?
Yes.
Okay. All right, what does the council wish to do with 11R2? We've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, 11S1 is a public hearing regarding allocation in support of the relocation of Griffin Communications corporate headquarters. Has anyone signed up to speak?
No one has signed up.
All right, then 11S2 is the joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust approving an allocation in a total amount not to exceed $2.7 million, et cetera, to the project. Any comments, questions, motions? Okay. We've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes as soon as you can. Passes 7-1. All right, item 11T1 is a public hearing regarding allocation for the provision of certain job creation economic development incentives to Signify Health, Inc. Amy, has anyone signed up to speak under this public hearing?
No one has signed up.
All right, then we'll move to 11T2, which is the joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust approving the allocation of general obligation limited tax bond proceeds in an amount not to exceed $400,000, et cetera.
Mayor,
Yes.
I just wanted to make a couple comments as we move through this quickly, because I do understand this allocation with their potential home. They are looking at Ward 7 for this. So I was able to speak with someone, I can't remember his exact title, Mr. Pierre, I believe was his name. And with the addition of the 224 new jobs, they have clarified that the starting salary is $15 an hour, and due to other increments, it could be up to 22 or more, if I'm not mistaken, for a starting wage. So I did address a couple of concerns, so I just want to make those public as well because of the concerns that I did address to him. One is public transportation. That's going to be a difficult part of where they are locating in order for us to ensure that we have the great candidates and folks who can receive these types of wages at the table that we look at in working with our Embark and in creating better public transportation efforts in relation to this particular area. Two, looking at felon-friendly employment, if that is not something that I look at already because of where we are with our being ranked 1 and 2 for incarceration of men and women as far as our state is concerned. And those barriers clearly that we want to ensure that we can look at for these jobs, depending on whatever the job may be itself. We understand that. And there was another caveat, I can't remember what that was exactly, but they are, again, looking into those things, and I want to make sure we continue to keep that conversation at the forefront as we work through these jobs coming to our communities. So I'm happy that they have decided to expand to Oklahoma City. I believe their home is in Dallas, and they have a couple of other places that they work out of, but this is the closest to them, so that's why they are excited about this particular area. So I just want to mention a couple of those things as we move forward with this.
Thank you. Well, do we want to take a motion on the item? Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, 11U, resolution describing, establishing, and creating increment district number 15, City of OKC, pursuant to the provisions of the amended and restated Northeast Renaissance Redevelopment Project Plan, et cetera. We do have a presentation.
Yes, Wiley Williams, Deputy Municipal Counselor, is here to explain the creation of this TIF district.
Just briefly give a past history. The Northeast Renaissance Redevelopment Project Plan was adopted in January of 2015, and it established increment district number 9. And then in December of 2019, we amended the plan to modify increment district number 9, and we created an increment district that we temporarily named as increment district B, which consists of 5 different tracts of land. Creston Hill School, the Marcus Garvey School, Truman Elementary, the site of the former Truman Elementary School, some commercial MLK land near MLK and Northeast 25th, and then the west part of Northeast 23rd Street over by the National Guard Armory and the OML, Oklahoma Municipal League property. And the law allows us to create the project plan and implement increment districts within 10 years of the adoption of the plan. And as a result of the Homeland Store project, we need to implement and initiate the project, increment district B, which will become increment district number 15. We have to number them sequentially under the statute so that we can meet our obligations to pay for the TIF money, tax increment financing that we did, and the sales tax that we're going to use to pay back for the project. And the resolution also establishes the sales tax formula, which we will use 2.25% of the sales tax collected to go into the apportionment fund for the increment district. And that will go on only in projects that we incentivize. So not every business will be subject to the tax increment, only those that we incentivize, such as the Homeland Store. And by adopting this resolution, you set all that in motion. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I just have a couple, Mr. Wiley. And TIFs are very confusing for me, so you'll probably have to give me another educated response for this. Now, I don't have a problem with us looking at, as we look at Area B, strictly the tract of Northeast 36 and Lincoln. And you may have said this already, so please, I apologize if you have, and correct me if I'm wrong. Is there a way to only look at, we have to start all of B in order for this to occur and not amend for just this area of the homeland?
Currently, yes, because we identified increment district B as all those properties. We'd have to go back and re-amend the plan to isolate out the Northeast 36 from what we temporarily labeled as increment district B. And the clock runs for 25 years from now.
Yes, and that part I understand. My hesitancy is because of all of the other pieces of this puzzle of B,
Right.
that we are not there yet. And I do have reservations about those things as well, as we've talked through and are still working through. So that's just where my concern is, and I'm trying to figure out the best way we can work through that. I don't know if that means we may, I know we need to get this done for the homeland in particular, but if we do that, is it possible for us to amend after, or how would that look?
To go back and we'd have to carve it out. I assume we can probably get there unless there's some objection to some of the other taxing jurisdictions or something like that. But as it stands, in order to start collecting the money or apportioning the money as the Homeland store opens, we need to initiate it now.
Okay. Well, I want us to move forward again with that part, but I do want to bring that back and look at us working through those other pieces that are also a part of B, and take that to probably the TIF committee, look at it, or however that works. And obviously, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk to you about that as well. Thank you.
Councilwoman, because this is Ward 7, I really want to make sure I have similar wooziness around TIFs, and I just want to make sure when you say moving forward, that means you support this as is, and you're wanting them to come back with some amendments within this District B. I was just making some notes and underlines
That's
here.
correct. I want to look at the possibility of that. Again, I know we created this in the efforts for what we are doing now for this store to open on September the 1st. But as we look at other pieces, I do have some reservations. So I want to work through my reservations, and if we have to bring that back, I'd like to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? What does the council wish to do? All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. All right, item 11V1 is a resolution approving the request for salary continuation for Corporal Denny Stacy while he continues to require rehabilitation. Executive session is not requested on this. What does council wish to do with the resolution? We've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. W1 is a resolution authorizing Richard Mann, Jeremy Jarman, and Brett Logan, Assistant Municipal Counselors, to represent and defend city employee Angela Pierce in the case of Sanders v. City of OKC. Staff has not requested an executive session. We've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, item 10.1, claims recommended for denial. They're A and B. We can take them with one motion. Staff has not requested executive session. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. 11Y, claims recommended for approval. We have items A through C. We can take it with one motion. Staff has not requested an executive session. Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, item Z1, ordinance on final hearing recommended for approval at 10801 Old 4 Highway, going from I-2 to PUD 1820. This was deferred on July 20th and August 3rd. This item also, following on a specific request from Councilman Stunseifert at our last meeting, includes the potential of an executive session to receive confidential communications from the municipal counselor. Councilman Carter, obviously we heard the the basic presentations last meeting. How do you wish to proceed in the timing of this? Should we do the executive session first to get legal advice on, or do you have any thoughts on that?
I've actually had a request from the developer to defer another 2 weeks due to the fact that the mayor and Councilman Greenwell will have to step out, and since Councilman Young is not here, the presentation would kind of be short.
Okay.
So if there's no opposition, unfortunately, I think we should defer for 2 weeks.
Okay.
I'll support that.
Okay. All right.
How many people signed up to speak on that? Just curious.
15.
15.
Can we give them the opportunity to go ahead and speak so they don't have to come waste another day?
Yes.
I mean,
Sure, that'd be fine.
But I think
I think it's a great
one
I think
comment,
it's a great
Mayor,
idea.
you raised is talking about order, and I would prefer that we do executive session if we do it at the next meeting.
The next meeting?
Because I want to hear all of this, and then I have questions for Kenny after I hear what the protesters have said.
But questions that you want to ask in executive session, you're saying, it's at some future date. Okay. All right, so kind of like, so we're all sort of on the same page. We're going to hear from the protesters today, since they're here, and then probably vote on a deferral for 2 weeks. And then at the next meeting, it would be anticipated we would do an executive session and everything else that might come along with that. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, then let's begin. We have a few. And I'd say this to everybody, and you may have different things to say, but if you feel like what you want to say has kind of already been said, you can still come forward if you want to feel like you were heard, but it's not a requirement that you fill the whole 3 minutes. If you feel like the point you wanted to make has already been articulated, there is strength in numbers, but it doesn't necessarily have to be everything repeated over and over again. So with that being said, I'm not standing in your way if you take your full 3 minutes, but just a thought. So we'll start with Jason Lowe, representative. You are always welcome here. Thank you for joining us. And of course, if you wouldn't mind, nevertheless, stating your name, address, and keep your remarks to 3 minutes or less.
Yes, Mayor, and thank you for this opportunity to speak to the council this morning. Jason Lowe, 228 Robert S. Kerr, Suite 630, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73102. At this time, I speak for the protesters, and they would like to speak in 2 weeks when we hear this matter again.
I would also like to apologize to everyone who has sat here for the last 3.5 hours almost, waiting to speak. I know that you had to take time out of your day, time off of work. You had to do a lot of different things, and this notice literally just came to me. But please accept my apologies. I did not foresee this.
Why don't we make a commitment, and it's one I can keep, that when we reconvene in 2 weeks, we move this item up, pretty close to the front of the docket. I mean, we might do the Teacher of the Month first or whatever, but that we'll do this item pretty much out of the gate in 2 weeks.
That's a great
If you
idea.
do return, you won't have to wait 3 hours, which is pretty standard around here, but we'll, because of the way this has gone on for several meetings, I'll make that commitment.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. He's not part of what group?
Attorney group, the protesters represented by the attorney. I am not part of that group.
Okay. All right, are you signed up to speak? Are you signed up to speak, ma'am?
I am.
Okay, well, we'll hear from you shortly then. Okay. All right, John Pettis Jr.
I'll wait 2 weeks, Mr. Mayor. Good to see you, Council.
Okay. Good to see you. Tyler Morgan. Okay. Justin Martin.
I'll wait 2 weeks as well.
All right, I will call everybody's name just so they all have the opportunity. If you want to keep saying that, that's fine. Shaban? M.H. Dugan? Cletus?
2 weeks.
Suzanne? You'd like to speak today? Oh, yes, sorry. Go ahead, of course, please.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Cannon. I live at 1305 Mayside Drive in Sun Valley Acres. I would like to submit my comments for your thoughts over the next 2 weeks, and I will come back in 2 weeks. But I come to you with two hats on
and as a proxy for one other person. I am a resident in the area that will be affected by this. I am also a member of the Board of Education for Yukon Public Schools. So I have two hats that I wear in this role. And then I also have a statement from our superintendent who got caught up in an emergency today and was unable to attend. So I know this is the end of a very long meeting, and I appreciate your time, and I will be brief if I may. I don't think I can be here in 2 weeks.
Okay.
So Sun Valley Acres is at Northwest 10th and Sarah Road. We are less than a half a mile from the proposed development. I'm talking to you first as a resident, okay, because I want to very clearly differentiate between those two roles. Our neighborhood has egress onto Northwest 10th Street, and we are already having problems with traffic. It's a 4-lane street, and at rush hour, we can't hardly get in and out of our neighborhood. Where the proposed development goes into 2 lanes. It's an asphalt road, and there are, as of course with many roads in Oklahoma City, we have potholes, and it takes the city sometimes a long time to get to us. There are some infrastructure issues. On the far west side of Oklahoma City, I sometimes feel like we're forgotten or left behind, although the city does everything they can to help us as they can. I listened to the gentleman talking about waste pickup and big trash day, and we really appreciate that. Although they were so burdened after the blizzard, it took 4 months before they got to my neighborhood to pick up my pile of trash that was 6 feet tall that went the entire length of my neighborhood. So I want to commend them for everything that they do to help us, and hope that they can have the resources they need to be able to do their jobs appropriately. Our police protection is spotty. I know that you all have a lot of openings right now for police officers, and it's hard for us to get some response out there. And when we do, sometimes it's not very timely. But we do appreciate what we have when we can get it. Water. I'm worried about providing water to this housing addition. We're all on septic tanks where I live, and I don't know what they're planned, if they're going to have a lagoon or what they're going to do for this housing addition. I'm very concerned about drainage. That area does flood when we have heavy rains, and mowing is always a problem, but Oklahoma City's big, and there's lots of mowing to do. And this is a semi-rural area, and so, the grass will get this tall along 10th Street before it gets mowed. But you guys have a lot of mowing to do. So I'm not here to complain. I'm just here to point out that infrastructure really needs to be addressed as the city continues to move west. And then, on that piece of property that we're talking about, I know this is probably irrelevant at this point, but we have a herd of deer that live there and lots of wildlife. Also, I have some concern about my property values, as I think lots of people do with manufactured housing coming in. We're worried that, if zoning is approved, there's nothing to keep the developer from changing his proposed development plans to maybe make it a greater density there, which then also increases traffic, also increases the demand for city services. With that, I want to move on to my next hat as a Board of Education member for Yukon Public Schools. First of all, I want to say that our job, our calling, and our mission is to educate every single student with a quality education that meets their needs.
Education in Oklahoma continues to be underfunded, and we do an excellent job with the money that we have and the services that we're able to provide for our children. It is my understanding that this development will not bring any ad valorem taxes to our school district to follow those children. So we will add an additional 200 to 500 children to our school district with no additional funding. That's going to create a hardship for us. 250 kids equals a school. And I'm sure you all know how long bond issues take to get through. So, we have to provide teachers and cafeteria and transportation and all of those things for the students. And we do a really good job of that with the money that we have. And these children, we will welcome with open arms should you all decide to pass this, but we're asking that you consider the financial burden on our district for that. Okay, now I'm Dr. Simmeroth, our superintendent. Our school does not have an opinion on who lives in our district. We take all kids, love all kids, and work hard for all kids, which is absolutely the truth. Our district is only concerned with the financial impact, the type of housing, and the property taxes it may or may not collect. It is my understanding that only county taxes will be collected on the land, not on the mobile homes. So each one of these homes will be bringing children, but no funding to help us with this. And that's the end of his statement. And I do appreciate you all taking the time to hear me today. I know it's the end of a long meeting. And, as a board member, my passion is the kids and doing the right thing for the kids. And we have got to be able to do it appropriately, fairly, equitably, and do the right thing. So, thank you.
Thank you. Karen Horton? All right. Miguel Chavez? Danielle Barber? Okay. Michael Kessler? Okay. Kim Throgmartin? And Richard? Okay. All right, well, that concludes everybody who signed up to speak. And so I guess now we could handle a motion to defer. All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, that'll be on the agenda in 2 weeks. In just a moment, a point of clarity, when you actually see the agenda, it won't be listed at the top of the meeting. What I'm committing to is that we'll pull it up, which we always have the right to do, but it'll still be listed down where zoning cases are, but we'll do it, if not literally the first thing, pretty close to the first thing in 2 weeks. Thank you for your patience today. Okay, that brings us to item 12, comments from council. Ward 1?
No, thank you.
Ward 2?
Yes, just to follow up on earlier this morning's conversation about the Delta variant and the mask conversation. While we were having that discussion, you all probably saw where Integris, Mercy, OU Health, and SSM Health St. Anthony's all put out a news release saying as follows: COVID-19 cases fueled by the highly contagious Delta variant and a low vaccination rate have pushed Oklahoma City hospitals to capacity. Hospital leaders are asking Oklahomans to wear their masks and get vaccinated in order to slow the surge of hospitalizations. And this is a quote from within the article. "Our healthcare providers simply cannot keep going at the current pace," said OU Health Chief Quality Officer Dale Bratzler. "People are in the hospital for many conditions other than COVID-19, but the continued rise in hospitalizations for COVID-19 is threatening the availability for everyone seeking our services." I think I have a very specific ask here. I'd like to talk with my fellow counselors to figure out what was it from our previous ordinance, which worked so well for us, and how can we re-enter such a moment from that language. So I'm very curious, not right now, but I would like to, in the coming days, chat with the counselors to figure out, let's not reinvent the wheel, let's look at what we've done previously. Because once, as I've said, I mean, this is pretty similar to what happened last summer when these hospital associations and medical providers were reaching out to us. We're in a similar moment, and so I'm very curious, especially with Councilman Stone and Stonecipher, and though he's not here right now, Greenwell, because it's gonna take, let's just be very real about the challenge in front of us. We're gonna need 5 votes, and then we're gonna need a supermajority to enact it. So to make that happen, we need to look at what worked previously when we worked so well together last time as a team, and figure out how we can reintroduce that language in a way that can make us as comfortable to meet this moment, this ask that they're bringing to our people in this time. So that would be my ask of you all, is to work with me to help craft something that will work for this body and our people. Thank you.
Thank you. Ward 4? I'm good, Mayor. Thank you. Ward 6?
Yes, I would just like to mention I've been informed that it is Bill Crum's last day covering City Council with the Oklahoman, and just want to wish him well on his retirement, and thank you for all the coverage of city issues and city meetings over the last decade or so. I know I've benefited from being informed about what's happening at the city, and I know many others have, so I really appreciate the coverage and the work serving our community.
Thank you. Ward 7?
Yes, I also wanted to say farewell and happy retirement to you, Mr. Crum. We appreciate your commitment to our city and the conversations, whether healthy or complicated. You have reported on them all, so we appreciate that. I just wanted to make mention of quite a few things, so I'll try to be as brief as possible. One of the main things I do want to say is congratulations to the students at Langston University. If you had not heard, that's our historically black college and university located in Oklahoma, and their Oklahoma City campus is located in Ward 7, but most recently they did clear $4.65 million in balances for students enrolled to 0. So that's more than 1,300 students that now have a 0 balance and are able to go back to school and finish out their degree or successfully enter into their next chapter debt-free. So I know this is significant for those students who, or anyone that knows what it's like to go to college and have debt, and for Langston to forgive that debt for our students. I'm proud to be Langston alumni, so I do want to make mention of that. I do, again, Ms. Hodge, our Teacher of the Month, Wheeler is located in Ward 7, so definitely want to commend her for her commitment to our young people and in education, for the things that she's doing, and making sure that they have something at the table that's constructive to talk about when it's time for dinner and throughout. Clearly, those are those teachers that you remember throughout your journey as you develop and grow into the men or women that we become. Millwood had their first day of school yesterday, so we were able to welcome in all the little young people going to the elementary school, and I know they had a burst in enrollment, so just wishing them a successful school year. And I know last week was OKCPS, so we know that they have had a good week and a concerning week now for some who have been impacted by COVID cases already at some schools. So we are definitely keeping our thoughts with those young people as they continue to work through the challenges of COVID. The Expungement Expo is happening. This is the first one the Urban League is going to host, and that's this Saturday from 11 to 3. And I mention this because, as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to jobs that are coming to our communities and to our city, it's important for these types of expungement expos to take place, for quality folks to be able to get jobs, who may have had just a downfall in life and now be able to clear that and start over. It means something. So there will be 19 applicants to have their records officially expunged. There will be a legal clinic, and I mention that because our city will be there in reference to the penalty reduction program. So if anyone wants more information about it, please come on this Saturday to the Urban League to receive more information. And that's something that we are very proud of as far as that penalty reduction program is concerned, because it's been extended to the end of the year. This Friday at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum, they're having their 3rd annual neighborhood block party. So if you have time, stop by there from 5 to 7. And we have the Affinity Sculpture, that's a dedication at the Science Museum on the 25th of this month at 10 a.m. And Science Museum Oklahoma 21 and up is taking place on the 27th. So if you haven't experienced that, please do. Something that did take place this past Saturday is the celebration of the 63rd anniversary of the Oklahoma City sit-ins, and we are continuing the Freedom Fiesta. I know there were quite a few people, including our mayor, who participated in the walk from the church to Kaiser's Bean, and they gave folks ice cream early in the morning. Did you eat some of that ice cream?
I did not.
It was quite early to eat ice cream.
It's hard to drink or eat ice cream before noon.
I agree. I was like, I don't know if it's time to eat the ice cream. Well, kids, clearly they don't care. But adults, it's a little different when you have an ice cream early in the morning. But we are grateful to them for being able to host this. And we did see a great celebration of those sit-inners that are still able to participate. So for those who do not know, in 2 days, the anniversary, 1958, Claire Looper, a local history teacher and advisor for the Oklahoma City NAACP Youth Council, she initiated one of the first civil rights protests in the country, along with 13 of her students, and that happened at the Couch Drugstore in downtown Oklahoma City. And it is important for us to remember that 2 years prior to the famous sit-ins in Greensboro, North Carolina, this happened in Oklahoma City. And she was arrested 26 times during her civil rights activities and was considered a major leader in the fight to end segregation in Oklahoma. So a few other things that will take place on Thursday: the Northeast Oklahoma City Community and Cultural Center, they're gonna have their voter registration and outdoor concert that starts at 7. And next Saturday, because of our former Congresswoman, Kendra Horn, we are going to officially dedicate the Clara Looper Post Office, which is the downtown post office. So that's gonna happen Saturday at 9 a.m. And at the Oklahoma History Center, there's gonna be an art exhibit all day, and there's gonna be movies. And then on Sunday, we will have the Freedom Fiesta celebration, and that's gonna be at the 5th Street Baptist Church, and the keynote speaker is Reverend John A. Reed, and he's the senior pastor of Fairview, and he's also been a civil rights activist, and he has been to our chambers and spoke about the jail, and wanting us to continue to keep that history alive with the jail. And he will be recognized, as well as a special recognition of Reverend W.B. Parker, both of those who participated in the sit-ins and the sanitation worker strike. So Reverend Parker is 100 years young, so we know he is full of knowledge pertaining to the history of Oklahoma and the things that happened and occurred in 1958, being a participant and supporter and advisor for those young people. So I wanted to make mention of that, and we want to continue to keep the legacy of Clara Looper in our thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Ward 8.
I want to echo on what Jo Beth and Nikki said about Bill. Bill, give us a wave up there. When you work with somebody, and I intentionally say work with someone for 6 years, you get to know them, and to say that Bill was inquisitive is an understatement. always full of questions, always well prepared. But the thing I appreciated most about him was when I had a question, he would always take the time to go research it and answer it for me. And those first couple of years, I really needed his help, and he took a lot of time doing that. In our conversations, I got to know Bill, his wife Wilda, who he refers to as his lovely wife, his son Jared, who graduated from Stanford with a law degree and is now in Washington, D.C., his son Spencer. One day he was taking him to a sporting event, and he said, "Mark, I can't talk to you right now. I'm with Spencer." And Spencer's at St. Mary's doing great. He just lettered in golf as a freshman. But Bill, journalism has always been in his blood. He was born in Baltimore. His parents moved him to Norman, where he graduated from Norman High, and then went to the University of Oklahoma. During his years at OU, he would work on the weekends, Friday and Saturday nights, at the sports desk covering high school and small college football and basketball. So journalism has always been in his blood. He worked for the AP as an editor and as a writer. He worked for the Oregonian in Portland and the Star Tribune in Minneapolis. And so I want to say, Bill, I consider you a friend. I've enjoyed our time together. I will miss you, and I hope you come back and see us when you're bored and have nothing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Let's...
Next.
Oh, you got more? Okay.
Sorry. On Wednesday of last week, I was invited to the home dedication ceremony for United States Marine Major Tyler Tidwell. Most of you don't know anything about Tyler, but I've learned a lot recently. He graduated #1 in his class from Deer Creek. He was admitted into the Naval Academy. He played football for the Naval Academy. He was an incredible football player. If you ever have a chance, watch the video of his 2006 Navy-Army game where he made 2 critical tackles, including a safety, to help win the game. He could have gone on as a professional football player, but he chose to do what his 2 grandfathers and his father did and serve in the military. On his 3rd tour of duty in 2018, Tyler started having problems, and there were these symptoms. He was finally diagnosed with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. And this guy is amazing. And I was privileged to be at that home dedication. There's a go-to fund. They've raised about $345,000. They're trying to get to $500,000. I would encourage you to read about this man's life. I pray for him every day. Thank you.
Thank you. And I echo everything that's been said about Bill. Working with Bill is a major part of serving in this building, and it's been a pleasure. Bill, you have done your job, in my view, perfectly, and that means the days, especially when you hold us to account. So you will be deeply missed. Thank you, Bill, for your service to the people of Oklahoma City. You absolutely are a public servant. Thank you so much. Okay, well, that concludes comments from council. We have item 13, citizens to be heard. And we have Mario Long and Carl Kemp signed up.
Mayor, as they're making their way.
Yeah.
I just also like to say, hey, Bill, thank you so much from Ward 2 and for always being so kind to me.
Proceed. If you wouldn't mind saying your name, address, and keep your remarks to 3 minutes.
Mario Long, 1909 Northwest 176 Terrace at Bend, Oklahoma. Good morning, Mayor Holt, members of the council. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this morning. My business partner, Carl Kemp, had to step away, so I'll be representing us. We are the owners of Elmer's Bar and Grill, located at 3925 North Lincoln Boulevard. The purpose of our visit this morning is to discuss an event we have on a weekly basis. It's called the Capital Cruise event. With the current climate as far as COVID, we've had to get really creative in what we do and how we do things as a bar and grill. This event is an outdoor event, and our patrons are able to come up. They're able to walk around, look at cars, motorcycles, trucks, etc., have food. We have children, grandparents up. It's a community event. We are in our 2nd year of this event. It's been a really positive event, and just to be frank with you, as far as keeping the doors open and the revenue generation, it has been critical because people are just more comfortable being outside and not so closed in, and we're not a big venue. As of about 6 weeks ago, we've received a heavy presence from the Spring Lake Police Department in regards to our event. We do welcome and encourage their presence, but right now we're trying to manage what we see as a perception issue of over policing in a sense. We've received complaints from a few of our patrons. We've had several patrons stop for excessive music, some minor violations within the area. We're zoned as commercial. We don't have any residents within 600 feet of our facility. We're reaching out to our neighbors who are also all commercial businesses, trying to do as much as we can to be good stewards within the community. As far as we've hired cleanup crew to assist with after the event, going to neighboring properties, cleaning up, picking up any trash left over. My request, and I've worked closely with Lieutenant Shaw at the Spring Lake Police Department to have communication, to try to work together in managing this perception issue of the over-policing that's happening. Again, we welcome their presence, we encourage their presence, but it's gotten to the point where before our event starts on Sunday—
30 seconds remaining.
Thank you. We have approximately 4 police cars directly across from our parking lot, and it's becoming almost a deterrent for some of our patrons, and any assistance with that is greatly appreciated. I appreciate the Assistant City Manager and his staff. They've worked with us incredibly on obtaining permits, helping us through the process. So we just want to try to get in front of it before it becomes an issue in the community which we're a part of. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well, that concludes citizens to be heard, and I'm sure the city manager and his team will follow up with you on those issues.
And
With
may
that,
I,
we're, oh, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Sorry,
May I
sure.
say, this is an issue for our community in general of over feeling, not just feeling, but saying they are over harassed and over policed. So we have a business trying to survive in a pandemic. And I know that we get calls on a Sunday in other places that we could probably be paying more attention to, especially with our law enforcement being as limited as we have been in asking for more folks to join our departments. It seems as if that's a bit much for 4 cars to sit at one establishment. So I'm really hoping that we can look at how we serve our communities again, especially those that we continue to have concerns, challenges, opportunities, and needs for improvement between our communities and the police department. So I know we're going to be talking continuously through our presentation for 21CP and our law enforcement task force, but it is important that these things are on public record for us to realize and understand that businesses are being subjected to these types of concerns as well. So I know we'll continue to work through this, and I'm very hopeful that we will work with, not hopeful, but I know we will work with this business and any other business that has concerns pertaining to over policing or over harassment and the feeling of when it comes to their business. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that concludes our agenda. We're at item 14, adjournment, and we are adjourned.
I think I